Hey, what's going on, YouTube? This is Quad B, your dude, otherwise known as Bamboozled Black Baby Boomer. Before I get started, let me take a look at the. Let me take a look at. Let me take a look real quick at YouTube, the YouTube app, to make sure everything is okay. Yeah, let me take a look real quick at. Okay, I've gone ahead and muted the YouTube app. So how's everyone doing? Um, this is Quad B, otherwise known as Bamboozled Black Baby Boomer, and I'm here. Just felt like going live. As you can see, this is the green screen I normally use for my other live feeds, but I got tired of using OBS this one time. And to be honest, I would hope somebody wants to get on and do do a hangout or something like that, because I got something I wanted to talk about. While everybody's talking about, I know what's real important is that bitch ass cop that shot the dude in his apartment, and you got Cardi B and I don't know, Nicki Minaj or whoever the fuck they are, doing their thing. And you got all kinds of, what else you got going on? You got Judge Kavanaugh and this other woman who said, well, he tried to rape me during high school. And I'm like, yeah, all that's all well and fine. My mic a little closer. All that's all well and fine. But I have some more pressing concerns. And some of y'all young folks may not know this, but some of y'all young folks may not know this. But let me see if I can share a screen with y'all. Let me see if I can. Let me see here. Let me see. This was something I created back in. This is something I created a few years ago. And let me see if I can do a quick screen share. Oh, yep, I sure can. And here it is. Tech companies, the old heads, fuck you. And then I wrote, this was a tweet I did a few years back. Tech companies, the old heads, fuck you. And then I said, I can't wait till these assholes turn 50 themselves. Now, why do I put that up? Well, because there was news that IBM, otherwise known as International Business Machines, well, they were International Business Machines, now known as just IBM, laid off a bunch of people. And they all happen to be over 40 and over 50. And as an old baby boomer who's getting ready to turn 59 in a few weeks, who still kind of needs employment, this is the kind of shit that I think is important, that pisses me the fuck off, to be honest with you. Let me come out of there. Okay, let me come out of there for a second. And I used to joke with people and say, race was racial discrimination. Being a black man who's worked in corporate America in various capacities for the last 30 years. I have the bumps and bruises to show for it, by the way. I didn't worry too much about race back in the day, but as I got old, but sometimes it's always in the back of your mind. But after you turn 40 and then 45 and then 50, you start to think, I'm worrying less about racial discrimination than I do age. And sure, and I begin to wonder, I get a bunch of calls from recruiters whose job is mainly to recruit tech people, like, you know, your application developers, networkers, database administrators and such. But, you know, they recruit me because I have a background in a little bit of technical writing and proposals. And hey, Char, what's up? How you doing? Thanks for coming on. You start to worry less about age discrimination than you do race discrimination, you know? And it's like, wait a minute. We all grow old. We all, if we live long enough, we become older. And some of us do have the wisdom of making all those trips around the sun. Some of us know a little something, but the stereotype is, well, old folks are just old. They don't want to learn new skills, blah, blah, blah. And that's bullshit. Look, back in 2000, when I got out of reporting and moved into this thing called proposal writing or coordination or specialist, whatever, different companies have different terms for it, helping companies bid for work. I had no freaking idea what Microsoft Office was. I had no idea what Microsoft Word was, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel. I didn't know any of that stuff, okay? Adobe Acrobat, I didn't know any of that. But over time, I learned it. And now, if you want me, now, of course, I'm not going to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not an application developer. I took a course, you know, in object-oriented programming, kicked my ass. I wasn't ready for that. It was, they had us, you know, my master's program, they had us doing freaking Java. And I was like, what Java? And I couldn't, to be honest, I couldn't understand it because I'm trying to read this shit like it's regular English, and, you know, code syntax it drove me nuts. And then years later, I learned that the best way to teach how to apply, you know, do application development is to find a problem, a real world problem, and apply that learning to solving the problem, as opposed to just writing code just to write code. But you live and you learn, right? Anyway, but getting back to the whole age discrimination thing, you know, IBM this week let go of a bunch of people, and I want to read you some comments. I'm on LinkedIn, which is the professionals, what's the word I'm looking for? Social media platform. And let me see if I can call that up. Okay, let's see here. Let me see if I can do the screen share. Okay, here it is. Okay, IBM being sued for age discrimination after firing thousands. And this was Bloomberg News, Garrett D. Vink, is it? September 17th. And that was, I guess that was Monday. Let me take a look. Let me take a look here. Yeah, that was Monday. And it says the lawyer who battled Amazon, Uber, and Google is leading the charge in this age discrimination suit. And of course, IBM, the company, saying workforce changes are about skills, not age. And then it says here, let me see if I can pull this up a little closer for you guys to see it. Okay. A lawyer known for battling tech giants over the treatment of workers has set her sights on International Business Machines Corp. Shannon Liss Reardon on Monday filed a class action lawsuit in federal court in Manhattan. Okay, I can't. It seems to this column seems to be bleeding over onto some of this type. But anyway, Shannon Lee Riordan filed a class action lawsuit in federal court in Manhattan on behalf of 3 former IBM employees who say the tech giant discriminated against them based on their age when it fired them. Liz Riordan, a partner in Licton, and Liz Riordan in Boston, has represented workers at Amazon, Uber, and Google, and has styled her firm as the preeminent champion for employees left behind by powerful tech companies. Quote, over the last 5 years, IBM has been in the process of systematically laying off older workers to build a younger workforce. The former employees claim in the suit, which draws heavily on a ProPublica report published in March, that the company fired more than 20,000 employees older than, hold on, let me see. I'm going to have to knock this down a little bit in order to see it. More older than 40 in the last 6 years. The lawsuit comes as IBM faces questions about its firing practices. In exhaustive detail, the ProPublica report made the case that IBM systematically broke age discrimination rules. Meanwhile, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has consolidated complaints against IBM into a single targeted investigation, according to a person familiar with it. A spokesman for EEOC declined comment. In the last decade, IBM has fired thousands of people in the US, Canada, and other high-wage jurisdictions in an effort to cut costs and retool its workforce after coming late to the cloud computing and mobile tech revolutions. Now, you got to understand, IBM, this is the same company that Bill Gates played somehow. And the Windows platform could have been IBM's, but somehow, I don't remember the story that well, but Bill Gates somehow played IBM, which was more interested in hardware and their mainframes. And this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. And Bill Gates ended up with Windows. It ended up with the software that powered all this stuff. And now you see, of course, he's like one of the richest men in the world, and IBM somehow got lost in the shuffle. But anyway, so here again, they're coming in, they're Johnny-come-latelys once again, cloud computing and mobile tech. Quote, changes in our workforce are about skills, not age, Ed Barberini, a spokesman for IBM, said in an email statement. In fact, since 2010, there is no difference in the age of our U.S. workforce, but the skills profile of our employees has changed dramatically. That is why we have been and will continue investing heavily in employee skills and retraining to make all of us successful in this new era of technology. If the judge allows a class action lawsuit to succeed, it could result in a drawn out and costly court battle and potentially end with IBM paying hundreds of millions of dollars to former employees, according to Michael Williman, an employment lawyer with Wigdor LLP, who isn't involved in any IBM-related cases. Okay, let me stop sharing the screen. So anyway, that is the Bloomberg story about IBM. And see, for Black YouTube, while all this other, I know y'all like to see y'all talk about men versus women, black versus whites, and this and that. But meanwhile, you got shit like this going on. It may not affect you today, but know for sure it'll affect you later, especially with this stuff like AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning coming online. Now, there's some question as to whether self-driving vehicles are going to come online soon. Some say yes, some say no. But be aware that as you grow older, you're going to be seen by another generation of hotshots coming after you as expendable. All right? Because a brother here is feeling it right now, or at least he thinks he's feeling it. Okay. So let me see if I can pull up another page for you. Hold on. Oh, okay. So we have this same, this is a post, this is LinkedIn. Let me see if I can share that with you. Okay, here it is. See, what I do is I open separate windows and I'm able to share. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring this up for you. Okay. And again, here is where it says, IBM is sued for age discrimination, basically taking from the Bloomberg story. And this was earlier this week on LinkedIn's platform. And you got a guy here, his name's Jacob Stebbins, saying, "First night, now IBM. What do your termination processes say about your company? What type of protection do you have in place to prevent a possible lawsuit?" Now, this is talking to owners, or officials of companies, okay? And there's IBM. Oh, and did you know, by the way, that IBM worked with the Nazis during World War II? They did business with Adolf Hitler. See, they don't want to tell you that shit. They were in the business of doing a census, if you will. And you know who they were counting? I think folks of the Jewish persuasion. But yeah, IBM worked for the Nazis, along with some other American companies, if some YouTube videos are to be believed. But I do know for a fact that IBM worked with Adolf Hitler, made money off Adolf Hitler, and yet they're an American company, which tells you that capitalism, and don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against capitalism, but capitalism doesn't give a fuck about sovereign borders where there's money to be made. Heck, the Koch brothers, you know those guys that fund right-wing causes like George Soros likes to fund left-wing causes. Well, the Koch brothers' daddy worked for Stalin, Joseph Stalin, in the beginnings of the Soviet Union. And you know what Stalin was known for? He was known for killing a bunch of people who didn't agree with his ideology. Okay? Just saying. Okay, so let's see some of these. I love reading the comments, though. They're very enlightening. Like you have one person here who apparently was answering another person who said that made a general statement that people over 40 don't want to learn new skills. I have something to say about that before I go on. I have nothing against learning new skills, but how are you supposed to know what to learn when it's only sort of a closed ecosystem? You're busy doing your 9 to 5 or 9 to, your 9 to 6 or your 8 to 7 or whatever it is, putting in all these hours. And then you go home and deal with whatever it is you have to deal with. You're probably married with kids. You might have a sick child at home. You might have aging parents, and you might not be thinking about, creating, new skills for yourself. That's if you don't know what skills are coming down the pike. In 2010, I didn't know anything about any damn AI or self-driving cars. Had I known, maybe I would have investigated it more. Anyway, it says here, Kate Lines, whoever this is, your post is merely perpetuating a myth. According to you, thousands of people who are downsized due to age, they have no ability to learn anything new after 40. How old are you? What would be your response when someone says that about you? Exactly. Then this other one. Here's another one. Could IBM offer its employees an internal continuing educational opportunity tailored to the skills needed for its cloud and mobile offerings? Are there educational firms which could tailor programs to suit IBM's internal skill set needs, perhaps, or even online programs? If employees choose not to take these classes, that's a whole different matter. However, if they gain these skills through in-house education, it could also have a side effect of more loyal and engaged employees. Now, that's one other thing I've noticed about companies in general in the United States. They don't like to train anybody anymore. And I heard that I know a couple of people who worked for IBM early on, and IBM used to train people. Now they don't. I guess it's too much money. Costs too much. Most companies want you knowing everything coming in through the door. They want you knowing everything at the door. That's why they have you look at the average job description, there are all these requirements. And there you go. There you have it. Nobody wants to train anymore. They want to leave it up to the colleges. They want to leave it up, and especially, and in terms of like your trade schools, even K through 12. I did a video on that like last fall, a year ago almost, where K through 12 doesn't want to train doesn't want to train anybody in the trades. They're leaving it up to the community colleges to do all that. Anyway, and this is my favorite comment right here. Let's be real for a minute. This has been going on in tech for the last 30 years. The only reason people are making a big deal about age discrimination in tech is because it affects old white guys. The industry has been perfectly content to exclude women and people of color since like forever. There you go. Yep. I think I was on LinkedIn back in 2015 where I read a similar thread where mostly folks who are white complained about age discrimination. And a part of me wanted to jump in there and say, gee, discrimination on the basis of an immutable physical characteristic. Doesn't feel too good now, doesn't it? And I almost wanted to say, half of you are probably the ones who are discriminating against in positions of influence, who are discriminating against people of color or whoever. But I didn't go there. I guess now I'm going here on this video, on this live stream. But I figured, no, I'm not going to go there because, a lot of people in DC, of course, read LinkedIn, and I still head to work in this town. So, and somebody said, no, someone here says, Jeff Herbert, folks need to start thinking. It's all about the Benjamins. And then someone named Gail King, I'm assuming that's not Oprah's friend. No, not about the white guys. It's about the perceived expense and perceived value, no matter who you are. I'm not an old white guy, and I was just handed the doorknob because of my age and perceived expense of my employment with a narrow-minded company that values white males of a particular religion and point of view above all else. So there's a dissenting view. Let me see. So here's another one. I was one of Julie Rambo, not to be confused with the Sylvester Stallone character from the 1980s. I was one of over 40 terminations 3 years ago. Everyone that was let go in that wave was over 40, and we were to sign paperwork that we would not sue for age discrimination, even though that is exactly what that was. And it kind of goes on. So let me go ahead and stop sharing the screen. Yeah, so, wow. So there you have it, folks. There are quite a few opinions, but yeah, there on this topic of age discrimination, and I can tell you that I'm kind of in the running for a company to do work for a company that does mostly environmental work. And I feel a little better about that because most of these dudes are older. They're probably in their 50s and 60s, have been managing projects since forever. And I'm thinking, okay, this company is not going to age discriminate as well. If they hire me, then I guess they say, okay, this guy, he's black and he's old, but at least he has the experience that we need to get a job done. And tech, and we're talking about tech, and tech is notorious, as you know, for discrimination. I mean, there's still, they're still talking about how companies like Google and Uber and Facebook still can't keep black people, or don't hire black people, or don't hire Hispanics or whatever, maybe a whole bunch of Asians, because they're more or less into that. But and they're cheaper. You got your H-1Bs, who tend to be mostly from India, and where I live now, there's bunches of folks from the subcontinent in this area of Fairfax County, Virginia. I see it. I live amongst them. We picked this apartment because it was cheaper and it was still within a good school district for our youngest son. But we're about to get up out of here in the next month because he's graduated. There's nothing keeping us here. Let me check the chat and see if there's anybody on here. Let me go ahead and check. Oh, just still Char Willie. And I still have 3 people watching. Hopefully y'all see this. Because Quad B knows a few things. And I said in my live stream earlier, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I do a series called the Planet GovCon, where I talk about government contracting and public sector procurement. And for now, there are these companies. The government does still, try, or on paper at least, they do still try to give minority, I don't like that word. I like minority, meaning black, Hispanic, women, whatever, owned companies a fair shake where it comes to doing business with the government. But hopefully they won't change that. But that's where I come in. That's why I'm such a proponent of that, because look, at the very least, you'll get work with the government. Might take them a while to pay you, but at least they'll pay you, as opposed to some other company that will try to stiff you. And speaking of stiffing, our current chief executive, I'm going to be honest with you. As a business person, I don't know how this guy managed to do what he did. And frankly, for me, the fact that he stiffed, or his organizations stiffed willingly, so many contractors and vendors would have been enough for me not to vote for him. Because you just don't do that. It's one thing if circumstances create it, but come on. I saw commercial after commercial 2 years ago where people talked about, yeah, this guy stiffed. And I'm not going to mention his name other than, some of us just call him 45. But this guy stiffed a lot of people in his business practice, and that's bullshit. You don't do that. Have I stiffed folks? Yeah, I have. But not because I wanted to, because I lost job. They like to say, well, Bamboozle keeps losing jobs. No, the jobs lose me. Okay. And it's a lot deeper. It's a lot deeper. Jack Charles, hello. Oh, the person close to you, Mr. Charles, has contacted me, and I responded to her with an entire video. She should tell her she should check her email and check it out, please. What are my thoughts on the current economy? I don't know if I have any. They say the economy's getting better. Matter of fact, I heard a report where it talked on the radio just a few minutes ago, about within the last 2 hours, that talked about how the U.S. Army has missed its recruiting goals because the economy has gotten better. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. I don't necessarily believe the economy is better. I think as long as, I don't know. On one hand, if you got the education, if you have the connections, and you could probably you'll weather it. You will weather it. But if you are still like dependent on the government for things like food stamps or whatever, it's not getting any better. You've got the gig economy. And I think the gig economy can work if it's just you and you have no dependents. Okay. I think the gig economy can work if you're doing Lyft or Uber, or you're doing doing YouTube, if you're doing a number of things and getting little streams of income here and there, and it's just you, and you've got a roommate who, if you're young and have roommates and all that, then yeah, I guess it would be good. But keep in mind, a guy like me, we came of age at a time where we were told you either go in the military or go to school, and yeah, and that's what we did. But somewhere in the 90s and the 2000s, we ended up getting, as y'all like to say, fucked up in the game. The game changed. People started, there was a time where you could just come out of high school and walk into a job at a factory when America still made shit. Now the manufacturing has moved overseas. NAFTA, which happened under Bill Clinton, was probably one of the worst things that ever happened to American workers. You have unions used to be pretty strong, and now you're seeing the end of a 30-year plan to decimate unions. So workers have no protections whatsoever. I guess if you're a business owner or you've got capital, the economy is great. But if you're just an ordinary worker, and especially an older one who came of age during the baby boom era, like I said, you're fucked up in the game, relatively. Oh, okay. Somebody's knocking on the door. Can hold up for 1 second, please? My bad. Yes. Sorry about that, folks. Someone knocked on the door. I opened it and nobody was there. Someone knocked on the door, and I looked. I thought maybe it was somebody leaving a package and just knocking and walking away. And I looked and I didn't see anybody. Let's see. Do you think millennials make a difference as far as U.S. policies in the future? Nope. Gen Z, my youngest son's generation, they're the ones who are going to make a difference. The millennials are screwed as a group, are screwed up. The Gen Xers are screwed up. The baby boomers, those of us who are still left, are screwed up. Those are baby boomers who managed to get up out and retire, with pensions and whatnot. They're okay. But I think it's going to be Gen Z, Generation Z, who is going to end up fixing if there's fixing stuff, if there's anything left to be fixed. Because sometimes I look at this Congress, I look at this government, I look at some stuff that's happening at the state level, and I begin to wonder if some foreign powers have infiltrated those bodies. Oh, you think YouTube might shut my channel down for saying that? Because sometimes I wonder. Because it sure as hell doesn't look like they're taking care of America. They're taking care of home. It looks like, I don't know. It's like we're spending all our money on the military. I know a country needs a military, and I get the Navy. We have to. We are spending money to protect what power we have left in terms of the United States of America, but I don't know. I really don't know. It seems like we need to start spending money here. We've got infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt, railroads, roads, aviation improvements to the power grid. You could employ a lot of people doing that kind of stuff. But you need somebody like a FDR who has a vision, who created these agencies. Of course, you had World War II, which kind of jump-started the economy and created that boom and led to the baby boom and whatnot in the 40s. Of course, for some people, being black in the 40s in America still was no picnic. My father grew up in that era, and he'll tell you it was no picnic. And he still, even in his 80s, he still feels a certain kind of way about that. But that's a whole nother video, okay? Where was I? And again, these are just my musings based on what I've read, what I've seen. I'm trying to think of what else. So FDR, had a vision. John F. Kennedy, he had a vision. He said, we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And damned if they didn't do it. Those of us who believe they actually did it, okay? They actually put men on the moon. And that was a hell of a technological achievement. You need today a president or somebody with a vision who says, look, we need to take care of home first. But as long as you got a group of 1%ers or whoever who want to keep us distracted with bullshit, nothing's going to get done. And the entertainment industry, I have to talk about them. We're so enthralled, and don't get me wrong, I watch a few shows here or there, but the entertainment industry has really, it's almost like Rome, bread and circuses. I forgot the panem I can't remember the actual term, but bread and circuses, to keep the masses distracted. I really do believe that if Louis XVI, is it, from France, if he had had an entertainment industry in France to distract the masses, he might have died with his head still attached to his shoulders. That's just me. That's just me talking. I could be full of shit. Y'all want to think I'm full of shit? Fine. But I bet, like I said, I'm close to ending my 59th trip around the sun. And by that token, I just know more than you. Okay. And the other thing is too, I want to tell you this. I think I said this in another live stream. I had considered applying to become a foreign service officer maybe 10 years or so ago, because the State Department on paper will take a foreign service officer applicant all the way up to age 60. And you know why? Because in other cultures, older people are revered, especially your Asian cultures. They're revered for their knowledge and wisdom and all that good shit, you know? And same with other, you know, some other non-Western cultures. Only here in America, it's all about the youth, which is nothing wrong with being young. But then they talk about, they talk about youth being wasted on the young. It took me a while to figure out what that meant. Now I know what it means. It means the vitality and the health, and the vitality, the health, the physical health and whatnot are wasted on people who don't appreciate it. It isn't until you get older and the mind is sharp right now. The mind is actually sharp. It's the body. Now that this is like, I used to be able to cover 100 yards. When I ran track in high school, I could cover 100 yards in 10.3 seconds. Of course, that sounds good until you realize I was running against guys in my own high school who could cover the same distance in 9.9 seconds. These brothers work fast. All right. But today, if I were being chased, I'd get got. To be honest with you, because my knees are shot. I'm a little fat in the belly. My ass would be get got. Either that, or I'd have to pull a firearm with somebody. But that's what they mean by, youth being wasted on the young. And I'm not dissing you guys, but I have this channel because I'm like trying to drop some of the knowledge that I wish had been dropped on me. Now, granted, the knowledge that exists today did not exist then, but then there are other aspects of game that I wish someone had dropped on me at 25. And would I have listened? I don't know. But nobody really. My parents weren't all, my parents were good. They were all right, but they didn't know everything either. And of course you have the internet today. So back in the day, you actually had to go to the library and look in the Dewey Decimal System to look up a book or a magazine or some crap like that. Now you've got the shit at your fingertips. There's no excuse for you not to know some stuff. Let me check the chat. Yeah, DollarWIL. Hey, businesses must be made to train on the job like before, and that they sell us out by exporting jobs. Underrated darkness. Good evening. DollarWIL. Youth are valued because healthcare is cheaper and they're exploited easier. Yeah, that's another thing. We got to figure out something. We got to figure out how to lower the cost of healthcare in this country. I don't know how that would be done. And then Jack, Jack wants to know your opinion on thoughts on America's future. So I'll let you have that in the chat. And if anybody wants to join, what time is it? 6:19. If anybody wants to join, feel free to send me your email because I'm a little leery about putting the link in the chat because I did that once before and I got hacked and my live stream hangout got hacked and some porn ended up on there. And let's just put it like this. It was very poorly done porn. Okay. If you're going to do porn, at least have it in HD and, have some attractive people, that's all I'm going to say about that. They're even porn should have standards of production. Oh man. So, but he said, DollarWIL says, my eyes still hurt. Oh, you remember that, huh? my brain hurts thinking about that. Ooh. And I had a bunch of people who were like, turn it off, turn it off. I didn't see it at the time. Turn it off. It wasn't until later that I finally saw it and said, oh, okay, now I see what they were talking about. But anyway, that's why I don't, if you want to get on, you can. Otherwise, I might just end this because I've said what I had to say. And just to bring it back full circle. I wanted to talk about age discrimination in employment, and it is a major problem. It's a problem. Um, it is a problem. And all I can say is that if you're over 50, say if you're in your 40s now and you're approaching 50, make sure you keep your game tight, see if, keep abreast of the trends in terms of AI. Hey, I guess somebody has to fix those robots, right? Or program them or hack them or whatever. Keep your network tight. Make sure you know people. And yeah, if it means getting to know people who don't look like you do it. Because you don't have the luxury of these days. We're still 12-13% of the population of the United States. We don't have the luxury right now of some people gotta get mad at me when I say this, but we don't have the luxury of talking about Black liberation and all that sort of stuff when we can't even liberate ourselves. You know what I'm saying? From economics. Well, we're 12% of the population. Yeah, we can try to fight. But we're gonna end up losing. And I've heard it said that, and I hear about white supremacy all the time too. White supremacy is going to peter itself out. And if you think the white living under white rule is bad, wait till the Chinese end up taking over the planet. They hate everybody. They do. White people, Chinese, they don't like white people. They don't like Black people. They don't like Latinos. They don't like anybody. As a group. I'm not talking about individuals, just as a group, okay? And there was something else I wanted to say too. Yes, in America, she don't want to change, talking about the policy. Yeah, that's true too. But again, nothing's going to change until Generation Z gets old enough to vote and votes all these cretins who are now in Congress and in state houses and even at the local level. And that's the other thing too. Keep an eye on your local government. Keep an eye on them, because those guys have the most impact on you. I mean, we're worried about what 45 is doing, and your neighbor down the street who sits on the school board or the sewer board could be robbing your ass blind. How? He gives a contract or food service. Let's say a food service contract to his brother-in-law and gets a kickback from it. Nobody's the wiser. Remember Bell, California? That was a poor, mostly migrant community. And it turned out you had people in that government paying themselves megabucks until the government, the Justice Department stepped in and shut them down, and ran some people to jail. Okay? And I'm going off the top of my head. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what, some of the most entertaining videos I have seen on YouTube were actually local government meetings, because you talk about beef. Oh, there's barbecuing going on. You talk about roast beef barbecue. Watch a video of a local government meeting sometimes when there's a contentious issue. And I'm not talking about the folks that showed up like a one-off or two-off where they showed up in Dallas to talk about that white bitch that shot the brother in his apartment. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just little towns. You want to see a barbecue? Go on some of those videos. Trust me, you'll crack up. If that is, unless it's your town, and then you might cry. Oh man. So, hold on. Hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't see. Let me let me go ahead and send you the link, DollarWIL. I just now saw that. Hold up. Yeah, we're gonna chop it. If you want to chop it up, we'll chop it up like steak. Okay, I'm waiting for wait a minute. Hold on. Where is okay. I haven't gotten DollarWIL, I haven't gotten your email. You know what? Here's my email. I changed it a few weeks ago. So send me your email and I'll send you the link and you can hop on and we can at least chop it up for a little while. But like I said, in my live streams, you know, holler at a brother, he can help you. Holler at a brother. Because I don't know how many folks over 55 are on YouTube, especially black folks over 55, but I'm one of them. And you know, I spent my, you know, adulthood dropping game on my kids who are now in, you know, 31, 29, and 18, and they're doing okay. And y'all have seen me and Mrs. Bamboozled do a couple of live streams together. We talk about just being married, you know, life. It comes at you fast, you know. Let me see if okay, there you go. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to reply and I'm going to drop the link and here it comes. Yep, here it is. So once, yeah, hop on and let's chop some stuff up. I want to know what I want to hear your views on what I've said and take it from there. Jack Charles, you got a lot of knowledge, brother. When you talk, I listen. Man, thanks so much. I appreciate that. But I've learned a lot from listening to guys, you know, like, you know, Black Gnostic Speaks, aka BGS. I've learned a lot just from him too. And he and I are about the same age. He's 58. Hey, DollarWIL, you there?
Oh, still trying to get it together.
You're okay. I hear you. I hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. How you doing?
Great. What's up, bro?
Yeah, what's going on?
Trying to survive. You know, this is a timely, you know, topic that people need to really be focused on. Especially people that are like in their mid to late 30s, or people in anywhere in the neighborhood of age 40.
Right.
Because I just looked it up, whatever that Age Discrimination Act of whatever, 1967 or whatever, it identifies age as beginning at age 40. So I don't think people, I know when I was approaching 40, I never, am I loud enough?
Dude,
you hear me fine?
You're borging out just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
And you make sure you have your YouTube app turned off, your actual YouTube page turned, or you know, muted.
Yeah, that's muted. But let me see if I can get you some more gain and move a little closer to my router or whatever.
Okay, cool.
But let's see. I will send. Let me just go ahead as I move closer. As I got closer to you know, fighting my whole life on race discrimination, I wasn't even thinking about age discrimination as I approached 40. And the first time it occurred to me was, I mean, I had been fighting on my job for maybe within 3 months of me getting there. I ended up staying there about 25 years. So I was already known when I walked in the door as, you know, this guy gonna be, I was trouble for 25 years. Okay? But I was excellent worker. And I reminded people that's how I can raise all this H, because, you know, I'm gonna come to work on time. I'm gonna follow all the rules, because if they watching me more than everybody, because I was that worker that would write the all staff email to the president of the company. Okay, I was that worker, and took on, wrote email wars with the HR president and the company lawyer. Okay, I was that person. Okay, that event that ultimately brought in the union. Okay, I was that worker. So now again, I'm thinking the whole time that race is the issue. You know, that's what my mind was. Race is the issue. And then later on, I had I was dealing with equal opportunity on jobs. You know, a lot of jobs, you know, you need to get more experience in certain areas so you can move up to either get more pay or to increase your options to leave that company. You know, so that's always the struggle. Once you get in the door, you try not to be treated like a token once you get in there. And so, but at some point, I had a manager tell me, after 15 years into this struggle for equality, this white male supervisor told me, well, you know, we got to get young people involved. I said, what? So when I was young, you said my youth was a penalty because I didn't have experience. But after 15 years of fighting with you for equality, now you tell me you value young people.
Talk about moving the goalpost.
Exactly. And that's when I started. It still didn't quite hit me until fast forward when I ultimately left the job around 2011. And when I tried to take jobs in my own industry that were far beneath me, far. I mean, I had, you know, significant experience and responsibility on the job. So I'm going for jobs that make half of what I was making in salary. And when the phone doesn't ring and you don't even get called in for an interview, like, you know, you, for example, you know, you're a journalist, you've been in the, you kind of know where you stand in journalism in terms of if you worked on a certain size newspaper in a certain size market. Well, if you, same thing in the, I would say in the electronic media, you know, like, you know, TV and radio, you've been on the national level and you know, traveled around the world. Of course you can do local radio. There's nothing that they're doing on the local radio that you can't do. Okay. And when you start noticing, when you don't get any calls, like, you go, whoa, that's when it hit me. I was that oblivious. That's when it hit me. Wow, you got some age discrimination issues going on. And I started, of course, you know, once that kind of thing enters your mind, you start paying attention to these news articles and YouTube videos from other workers, where in the past I just ignored all that stuff, but I would listen to what other people explain their situation, people with, like, you know, PhDs and stuff, man. I mean, like, way overeducated, and I hear that they have the same experience. I'm like, whoa. So I just wanted to hop on to say, I'm not telling people to stay or go with respect to their job if they want to make a move, if they can't take it anymore, because even with all of the difficulties, I don't regret leaving, because, you know, sometimes, you know, you can't take it anymore. You know, you see people having heart attacks. I saw people on my job having heart attacks and stuff, man. They weren't even 50 years old. And I said, you know, and I wasn't in the greatest of shape. And I'm like, dude, you're going to have to do something, because this ain't looking too good. But I would just say that for somebody in their late 30s, in that 40, 40 area, just put that on the heap of other things that you have to contend with, and just know that a basic job is going to be harder to get than you think.
Yeah, understood.
You would have to. That's why. Yeah, I would say one of the just in terms of work in general, my belief now matches what I believed in my 20s, and that is the best way to trump any kind of age discrimination, race discrimination, any kind of discrimination. It's got to be in a field where that labor is in demand, because companies want to make money more than they want to discriminate against you. Unfortunately, the love for money is greater than all of it, and back to what I said earlier, I would remind people on my job, they wouldn't keep me on this job if I wasn't good. With all of the, HR, in their opinion, I'm worth putting up with, because, and I left on my own. I wasn't fired. I left, voluntarily. After all those years, I was like in the top 5 from the most senior. So I had seniority and everything. I just couldn't take it no more. But
okay. Wait, now you were in media, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Electronic, TV, radio.
I was on network radio.
Oh, okay. And for those of you who don't know, I was in newspapers for a long time, and I left voluntarily too. But I called myself wanting to try newsletter publishing, and I failed. And it's basically business to business newsletter publishing, and I failed spectacularly at it. But I did still learn something, and that's how then I transitioned into this area of this sub area of marketing known as writing proposals for companies, which I had never heard of. And then it hit me that a lot of the areas that we were bidding to were public agencies like states, cities. I did a lot of work on bids to be submitted to the city of New York, for example, or to the New York City MTA Transit, the Transit Authority. And I was thinking, if I had been a reporter, I could have used a lot of those proposals. Of course, I would have had to file, Freedom of Information Act, and they probably would have had to redact a lot of things. But those things would have been a treasure trove of information for stories, but no one ever told me. And no edit, I never thought about it. No editor ever suggested it. None of the editors or supervisors I ever had suggested it. So that was just one other thing that hit me when I got into that field. But now if you're a journalist watching this, now you know.
Right. And, yeah. That's a hot field, because long ago in another lifetime, I ran a nonprofit, and when writing a grant is it's a lot of politics in it, and it's a skill to how it's about connections, but it's also about the skill of how to write the grant. Right. And the grant writers that know these foundations, they know how that foundation wants that information prepared. And so and back in the day, like $2,500, $3,000 that was all you needed to hire a gun, basically, for somebody to write the grant for you. But sometimes we think that we're too smart for our own good. Sometimes, we think that, I can speak well and I can write well. No, it's not that. It's you paying for that specialized knowledge that grant writer has, And so that skill is will always be valued because free money, people are always going to be in the business of getting it, but so if you're out there as a journalist and you're struggling, I say definitely look at that, try to learn the ropes, contact Quad B, and learn the inside game with that,
But I was also going to say too, if you're a reporter, if you're still in journalism, you can use those proposals as background for stories, but you have to go through the rigmarole of of filing a Freedom of Information Act. Of course, you got to kind of know what you're looking for. You just don't want to go on waste time going on a fishing expedition. You kind of want to know what you're going for as well. But yeah, you're right. If you can get into proposal writing, I can show you how to do it. If you own a company, yeah, okay, here comes the shameless plug. If you own a company, I can do that for you too. And with each federal contractor that I worked for in the last 5 years, and I bounced around quite a few of them, not by choice. That's what I have to constantly tell people, because the federal government doesn't pay fast and they cancel programs or they delay programs. And a lot of these small contractors find themselves cash strapped. And so they get rid of folks like back office folks like myself and other salespeople for a little while until they feel like they're ready to rehire them. But it's a good field to get into, and you can. I guess what I'm saying is I picked up a lot of knowledge on how the federal, especially on the federal level, how the game works. Check out my channel. I have a series called the Planet GovCon series. So far, we have 4 episodes up. 4 episodes. And I've got a good 5th one where I want to talk about the pitfalls of just bidding blindly. You can go on there's a website out there, DollarWIL, called Fed BizOps. And you might see something that's right up your alley. I'm going to bid on it. And my first question, I need to get someone to write this proposal for me. My first question to you is, do you know anybody in that agency? And if you say no, it's too late. They probably already know who they want.
Exactly. I saw that in jobs, there's a hustle going on just to like complete the circle with what we were talking about with the age discrimination. There's a hustle going on in these jobs where the person that they want to do the job is actually already doing the job. And just to, I guess, present that a front for equality of opportunity, they advertise
right
there's an opening. Well, there is no opening. If you've noticed, I don't know, people picked on it, but anybody that has been seriously looking for a job, and I haven't been looking for I've been doing my trading thing, but maybe about the last, I'd say about 4 years ago, that's when I like officially stopped looking for work. But I noticed over time, why does this job that I've applied for several times, why is it still posted? Why is it that I haven't gotten a call? Or even not just me, why hasn't anyone gotten a call to fill this job? And you figure it out. Some pieces start to come together. I remember my boss, just years ago, my boss would say, every time we have an opening for one of you guys' position, I get 1,500, resumes within 2 weeks. We can't go through all these resumes. It's like, so what companies, I kind of put it together. I believe what companies are doing is they're always testing the water to see, one, how quickly you can be replaced. That's one. And at what price. Okay. And if they could keep a little roster of people, who fit the bill, then they'll find your replacement before they get rid of you.
Oh man, trust me, I know that's right. Let me tell you a little story. Just this week I had a little meltdown. Okay, they look for, DC is recruiter central. Okay, you get a lot of recruiters. Like, for example, there's this one company who I won't name. I have had 4 different people call me from this one company about a job or position for which I already interviewed. And then somebody called me from the same company this week. And the first thing they say is, well, I know you've talked to some of my colleagues, but tell me about your experience. And something triggered. I told the guy over the phone, do you have my resume? He goes, yeah. And I just unloaded. It was it was just frustration. I unloaded on this dude and said, look, I'm getting sick and tired of y'all calling me up. You and all these other companies calling me up, talking about, oh, we saw your resume on Monster and you look like a great fit for this position, blah, blah, blah. And ne'er a job has materialized. I am still unemployed. Okay. and I said, you need to talk to some of your other colleagues or put notes in or whatever. And I said, have a nice day. And I hung up. I have never done that before. I completely lost it. But I've heard now, not just people like me. Again, I'm a technical writer and a proposal writer. I've done both. But people who are in tech, as I've said, people who actually do the tech, they do the application development, the networking, the database development, and systems engineering or system architecture. They get calls all the time. And one of the biggest complaints is they'll get calls from people halfway around the world whose accents are so thick you can't understand them. You know what I mean? Because they're all trying to curry favor with some client who's looking for someone. And I almost want to say, I've almost thought about doing a video, DollarWIL, that said, hey, to these companies, my name is so, I won't give my real name here, but a lot of y'all already know it. This is me. Cut out the middleman and call me directly. Right. That kind of thing. I mean, right. How hard is it? How hard is it to find a proposal writer coordinator in the DC area? It's not that hard. Right. And all you got to do is call me and I'll walk into your office and you don't have to worry about, somebody screening for you. Matter of fact, of course, what I'm going to say is you don't need to talk to anybody else. I'm right here. But they'll look at me. But again, like I said, I've had situations, DollarWIL, where I had one interview where a guy was saying, we want people who's going to work 18 hours and this and that. And I got so annoyed. It was an Asian dude and a Caucasian woman. I don't know if they were playing good cop, bad cop, but this one dude was getting under my skin. And I said to him, you know what? If I'm going to work 16 hours a day, I'm going to do it for me. I got ready to push away from the table and say, it's been nice, but thank you for your time. I was going to end the interview myself, but the woman's like, no, stay. Because she wanted to talk about the book. I also co-authored a book with a lady about her life with sickle cell. She wanted to talk about that. I was like, okay, fine. Needless to say, I didn't get the position. But at some point, you just reach it. And I'm just saying all this to say, sometimes you reach a point where you just get pissed and just say, I'm getting tired of being played. You feel like you're being played. You're being played for a chump, Right.
So the moral of it all is as we get older, it doesn't get no easier. It gets harder because you got to factor in age discrimination issues, as well as anything else. But on that note, what you were just talking about, them getting the runaround, I didn't get mine. This is for anybody, especially a millennial. Take this tip, get this game. I'm getting ready to drop it. Get your pencil sharpened. I'm gonna tell you how I got in on that network level in a six-figure job. 6-figure salary. I had to play a little politics. I got frustrated, just as Quad B just explained, and so this was way back, y'all. We talking about the 80s, but I believe you can probably still use the same strategy. I got frustrated, and so somebody told me go to National Urban League, because National Urban League had maybe they still do. They had a job bank. And so I went to the National Urban League, and I'm looking through their job bank, and I see this national broadcaster that I had applied to, and the job that I had applied to was in the job bank of the Urban League. I didn't get a response from this company when I applied on my own. I mean, not a phone call, nothing. Okay, so I went to the person in the Urban League and I said, "Look, I've applied to this for this job right here already. I didn't get any response, but why is the job even in your job bank? You know, I presume that it would have been filled." But, you know, for it to still be an open posting and me not get a call back, this is really, you know, upsetting to me. And so the person said, "Give me your resume." I said, "They already have it." He said, "Listen, give me your resume." I said, "You need me to change anything they already have?" He said, "No, I'm going to photocopy it and send them the exact same resume that you already sent them. We're just going to put our cover letter on top of it." They sent, I gave them my resume. They put their cover there, being the National Urban League. Write that down, young folks. National Urban League and wouldn't you know, I got a call. I got a call back. They called me in. First of all, they told me that there's a test that you have to take. And it's real. They really do have this test. But they didn't even let me know that there was such a thing as a test. Okay? When I applied on my own, I didn't even know that they had an equal opportunity measure in place, which is a skill assessment test. So the way that, from my point of view, the discrimination happened by not allowing me to even know that there was a test. So I was screened out from even competing by taking the test. Now, this test is very difficult. Probably most workers there fail it the first time. It's a pretty difficult test. Everybody, black, white, you know, master's degree, experience, everybody fails that test. I barely passed it the first time out. And so, but all that to say, you know, going to the Urban League, working the politics, that's what got me in the door. It's not your experience. A lot of times, it's not your degree, which I'm a dropout, so I didn't have that. But which now let's segue to what you were saying in your story just now. We're so automated right now with these bots, you know, evaluating the application process, that if you don't check all the boxes, your resume can't get through.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of ridiculous. I would, you know, think like of course I was from my case, but I mean, I have things on my resume that would take you at least 10 years to be able to get to do. You know, you're not going to go some places, and there's certain responsibilities a company's not going to trust you with, like to be the front person for, you know, some transatlantic, you know, broadcast on a major, you know, international story. You're not going to be like the main guy unless you pretty much have had, like, you know, 10 years experience. Now, I wouldn't even get a call back from companies because, and I'm just guessing, I don't know this, but I'm thinking that maybe some bot somewhere said, okay, he's a college dropout, so we'll put his resume in the back. Huh? So it's like, it's just so much harder now for millennials, because back in our day, we used to literally beat the pavement to get a job. We would go in the downtown area with a briefcase full of resumes, and we would start at one end and walk down the other and go to the front desk and say, "Do you have any job openings?" And sometimes they would point to a book in the lobby and you'd leave your resume. Other times you could ask to speak to someone in human resources, and they would actually come downstairs and look you eye to eye, and you could explain any unique situation, you know, say maybe you dropped out or whatever, but because of that personal engagement, you get to look them in the eye and make an impression in a way that you can't make on paper, that's back in the day, I was able to talk my way into a whole lot of stuff. I'm like, if I could, and my attitude was, if I can talk to the hiring person, I'm going to get that job. But I know what to say to them to distinguish myself. I know there's going to be some things I'm going to say in that interview that's going to communicate my level of experience and my level of responsibility and my level of mastery. I'm going to know how to do that. But in this modern era, so it's like, it just encourages people. I'm not encouraging people to do this, but this modern era of the automated bots, in the application process, it's encouraging people to lie, because they've created this hurdle that you have to get past that first wave to get to someone. A lot of times, and back to your point, you can get to talk to the human resources person and they are clueless. They are clueless. So you have to go through a lot just to get to, say, that department manager that would become, that's like your future supervisor. If you can meet that person and look them in the eye, they're going to understand what you're talking about. They're going to understand the value of the experience you have on your resume. So I would say, for a younger person, I mean, this just came to my mind just now. It's really important to get in, do meetups and go to conventions.
That's right.
Because that's where you're going to meet the hiring officials, and that person will say, apply, and then you can call them back and say, listen, I never got a response. And they go, yeah, I remember I met you at that conversation, at that meetup. What's your name again? And they may have to go fish your resume out the bundle. But that personal experience, that personal contact and interpersonal contact, that's what's missing in 2018.
Right. Yeah, because in the end, that's what it's about. Just to tell you, and DollarWIL, you made some great points. And to tell you my quick story, I ended up working in I'll say the company, Gannett. And I have to say that, we were employees. We didn't control it, but there was a gentleman who ran that company. His name was Alan Newharth. I'm not sure what drove him, but he was big on diversity. He wanted blacks, he wanted Hispanics, he wanted women in Gannett when it was in its heyday in the 70s and 80s. And they started USA Today by borrowing people from their newspaper properties. I worked for his creation. His first personal creation was Cocoa Today in Florida. Why Cocoa, Brevard County? Because the space program was there. A lot of engineers, a lot of technical folks were moving to that area. And he said, we need to put a newspaper here. So fast forward to 1980. This was in the 60s. Fast forward to 1980. I end up working there through connections with Gannett. Gannett's on-campus recruiters. I'm there for a summer, finish school. I go to my hometown paper, also a Gannett property. They hired me. I wanted to go for a copy editing job, but I didn't make it. Turned out to be the best thing that ever happened, because a few months later, I would call the city desk and ask for a lady to see if I could string for them, cover local meetings. And I kept mispronouncing a woman's name on the phone. Found out this woman was speaking at Temple University at a conference for women in the 80s. I went there and I met her. She brought me on as a stringer. They liked my writing. So then they kept me on as a quote unquote summer intern, 1982. Then I was hired. And 3 years later, I'm borrowed by Gannett down here in DC to do a research and development project that involved, guess what? News delivered online. Then I stuck around there for a year. My wife wanted to move to Denver. We got married. She wanted to move to Denver to do her doctorate. So I kind of had already applied to one of the newspapers there, But it turned out that the city editor at this paper worked for the same outfit, R&D outfit. When I told him that, he convinced the editors to bring me in for an interview. I told him I'd be moving out there. Shortly after we moved there in September of '86, I was hired there. The Rocky Mountain News, which no longer publishes, there for 7 years. Then, one of the editors I worked for in Denver, we fast forward to 1997. I'm working for the black newspaper now, Philadelphia Tribune. I get a call from this editor, white dude, and we played softball together and drank a lot of beer together. He's now an editor in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. He calls me up and says, Leroy, I'm sorry, well, that's my first name. He says, Bamboozled, you want to come work for me? Sure. And the money was better. And of course, I needed it because I had been out of work for a little while. I felt bad about leaving the Tribune, but I had to do what I had to do for my family. And the rest was history. And then and it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. He was the editor. He was sort of like, I want this guy. He's one of mine. I know this guy, but I'm going to introduce you to my underlings. And they're like, yeah, this guy looks good. I did pretty good work for them. So the point is, just like you said, DollarWIL, it's all about relationships.
Right.
In business and employment, it's all about relationships now. The place I'm looking at right now has a guy who helped me, who greased the skids for me because I worked with him 10 years ago for another environmental company. Right. So the point is, keep your business card. When somebody hands you a business card, don't throw it away. You have apps you can put on your phone to photograph them. It'll create a contact, and they may move around. But if they have a cell phone number, that's likely their personal cell. So you keep that.
Right.
And see, people talk about, well, I can't find a job. There's discrimination. Yeah, there is. They're letting people go, but you gotta have you gotta tap into that network. And the same thing when looking for business, looking for contracts, you gotta tap into that network. It's all about relationships. One more story. One more? Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, one more story. 2014, I was with a government contractor for a short time. They let me go. It was in July. We staged a family reunion here in DC, so I was kind of working on that. I was like, okay, at least I have time to help my wife work on this. All right. Next thing I know, about a week or so, like in mid-August, my phone is blowing up. It's blowing up, DollarWIL. It's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Turns out that somebody I had worked with before, I was at the Census Bureau. That's another long story. But this woman had a friend who worked for a woman who needed a technical writer, or else she would lose her subcontract. So some other person she had in mind flaked out on her, and they said, well, you can call this guy Bamboozled. And this woman was of Asian, of Thai descent. She was ex-Air Force. She owned her own company. She ran it out of her house, still does. We were on the phone all of 20 minutes, and she hired me on the spot. She said, you know what? You sound like you're mature and you can handle things. And she was in her 50s as well. And I was with that company. I worked for her on a subcontract, having to do technical writing for, what was it? For the ultimate client was the Defense Information Systems Agency, handling government issued mobile devices, iPads, smartphones. It was interesting work. Okay. Only reason I had to come off of it was because I didn't have the required security clearance. They were working on getting it, but my credit was so sucky at the time I couldn't, the government looked at me like, and I did a video on that too. It's out there. So my point being, relationships, you never know. In that case, that showed me again, you never know who who might know somebody who might need something. And that was my experience. Because this woman, she didn't go through all this dealing with HR and, well, we have to interview 15 candidates. She needed somebody, and she needed somebody fast. I happen to be right there, Johnny on the spot for her. And to this day, I will do anything legally, of course, and morally. I'll do anything for that. If she ever called me and asked for something, sure, what do you need? So there you go.
Yeah.
I'm just talking. And then, again, you got to have your network has got to be tight.
Yeah. You mentioned something just now. I don't know if you did a video on it or that whole security clearance thing.
I did.
You did? Okay, I want to watch that. When did you do it? About when?
I did it a year ago. I did it in the context of, the context at the time of people complaining that, Trump's, 45's son-in-law had, they had clearances, but yet they were, suspected of doing business with, those other folks on the other side of the planet. I won't mention them, but I was able.
Getting some feedback from that speaker you got on.
I don't have a speaker on. I just have my mic.
Oh, okay.
And I can hear myself as well.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing my own voice. I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, I just have my mic. And I don't have and my my YouTube app is muted. But I'll have to see if that's on my. I had to change, as you know, I got rid of my old channel and I downloaded everything, and it should be up on my channel now, but if it's not, I'll send you the link to it. If it is there, I'll send you a link.
Yeah, because I wanna watch that video because how dumb my moment came when I realized how big the security clearance world is. It's those secured jobs, especially in DC. Here I am living in the nation's capital, and it's a whole nother world. And it just was not in my mind when I was younger that maybe you need to position yourself to get a job that requires because you and I are over 50. You see, everybody now they go to work and they got the big multi-purpose room with multimedia, internet connection, and video, audio, video, internet, you name it. Well, back 20 years ago, that wasn't common.
Right.
That was not common. So a lot of these government agencies, they embrace media and the whole telecommuting thing, and of course that's when VPN technology came forward, all that. So that was a moment when, man, I would have been like in huge demand to work in the government section, but also back 25 years ago, the private industry paid much more than the government. So I would say the mistake that I made is don't assume that the way things are is the way that they will always be.
Exactly.
And so over time, the government salaries started topping, exceeding private industry. So government became economically competitive. And when that happened, I wasn't mindful of it. So because my mind was, I don't want to go work for the government because they don't get paid as much. And it wasn't a small difference in pay back in the day. It was a huge difference. But then it didn't occur to me until I started seeing just, my friends and them, I just started having, like, I'm like thinking I'm doing pretty well. I got my 6-figure job and a 6-figure income job. Then I started seeing that their cars were newer than mine. Their home, they're getting another home and various things like that. I'm like, wait a minute, they work for the government. How are they doing this? And that's when I started doing the research to find out, the government is competitive now with the pay, and so I would say, again, just to restate the point, don't think that what you know right now, whatever age you are, that information may not be true a decade from now.
There you go. Hey, how do you think?
Because I miss that whole security clearance thing, that whole world, man. It's a world unto itself. It's just like every job that exists in what we call, I'll just say, the regular workforce. Just about every job exists in that security clearance world. It's just that those people have been vetted, to make sure that, they're good citizens, good, trusted citizens. And because of that, really, because of the security clearance, they always work. The process of getting the security clearance costs lots and lots of money. So once it costs so much money that people, they will hire you for a job that you don't really know. They'll train you because it's actually cheaper to train someone that already has a security clearance. That depends on of course, it depends on the skill we're talking about. It's cheaper many times to hire a secure worker than to hire a non-secure worker. I'm probably using the wrong terminology. Non-secure worker that has experience in that area, because the security clearance thing just costs so much money. And then it hit me over my head again when I sold my house. The person that bought my house, she was an investigator for security clearance, doing background checks on people. I'm like, oh God.
Was she a contractor, or did she work directly for OPM, Office of Personnel Management?
I believe she worked from home, so I guess that would have made her a contractor, I guess.
Okay, because I remember there was a contractor that did a lot of that, and then they got fired. The contractor got fired, then then that function got taken over by OPM, and now I'm hearing that DOD is taking it over, the whole thing, the whole security clearance investigation. Wow. And I remember when I underwent mine, I sat down, a guy came to where I was working, he was from OPM, and he asked me pretty much the same questions that I had already answered on the SF-86 form. And for those of you who don't know what the SF-86 is, that's the form you have to fill out to give damn near your whole, well, actually, maybe dating back 10 years, 7 years, 10 years, your history, and you've got to answer every question truthfully. Do you have ties to, foreign influence is a big thing. Debt, the things that really kill your chances are debt, unpaid taxes, and foreign influence.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the other end of those with friends of mine, or even people in my neighborhood. I've had like people, very government official types knocking on my door, asking me questions about my neighbors, and of course, you ask for ID and they show you the government a badge and all, and they start asking you things like, does he have any strange habits, or you see any strange visitors? Does he have loud parties? Just anything, just like all this stuff, and I'm like, I could really hang my neighbor out to dry right here, but I would always tell the truth about the neighbor. They were pretty, fortunately they were all pretty on the up and up. But man, I was like, wow, it's like, all to make the point, basically, how dumb was I living in the nation's capital, the seat of the federal government, with all those federal government jobs. I never worked for the government. I worked for private sector my whole time. But it's a lot of good money in the government and the pension that you still get. That's probably the only place you can still get a pension, is if you're working for a government. It's not that many jobs have pensions anymore.
Mm-hmm. You know, the funny thing is too, though, you got some political figures who will try to shame, try to make the government out to be this evil empire, and because people out in other parts of the United States don't like the government, and you have politicians that feed on it. And the irony is, yeah, here you are talking smack about Washington and the government and the DC cesspool, but yet you're breaking your neck trying to convince people to send you there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
a great book to read, and I know it's old. It was written. It's called How Washington Really Works, and this was written in the 80s, I think. And I forgot who he was. An editor of one of those high-end magazines. I forgot the guy's name, but it's funny how they talk about, yeah, Washington's a horrible place. Send me there and I'll prove it to you. And then they end up getting there, serving in Congress or whatever. And then next thing you know, they're a lobby. When they leave, they become lobbyists on K Street.
Right. They never leave. They never leave the area.
Never leave. They don't want to come back home. And the book makes that point. After you've had a taste of all that privilege and whatnot, and people bowing to you and meeting your every need, and of course these days insider trading, why do you want to go back to East but whatever? I don't want to say
we got it.
Arkansas. East
exactly.
Arkansas, after you spent time in DC.
Exactly.
Drain the swamp. You know what I always say on my videos? I say, shoot, the swamp is nowhere near drained, and the alligators still remain fat and happy.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. But I wanted to mention something. Go back to something.
Go ahead.
Talking about relationships, and because you made me think of something that this is something that Black men culturally we're gonna have to look at this to kind of change a little bit. Because now because when we talk about it's who you know and making contact with people, I could be wrong, but I think we as Black men think of that contact we have to make as being a man. Well, the power has shifted a lot, and we can't let this gender war thing. We have to see women as also contacts for jobs too.
Right,
so we're gonna have to expand our way that we see women. Because I've had women sisters call me up and introduce me to some pretty powerful people to try to not just in this recent time, but throughout my life. Women that I was talking to for a whole nother thing. My agenda, my objective for talking to her was something completely different, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
And maybe that part didn't work out, but she put me on, with some business. And so I'm just saying, brothers, look, consider the sisters as resources too. You don't want to really burn those bridges either if you can help it, because especially if you're talking about an industry, everybody so many, you never know who knows who. Okay.
That's right.
And people talk, and so women are resources for work. That's what I'm trying to say. Think of that too.
Let me tell you that when that job I told you where the woman blew up my phone, where the company owner blew up my phone at 6 a.m. that one time, the person who gave me the name, the dude that gave me the name was a friend of a woman who was part of a group I work with. We're a group of contractors at the Census Bureau. And it was nothing but I was the only male. It was like a small group of us who we were responsible for writing interagency agreements governing how the Census Bureau would use other agencies' data. And it was me and several, the head of the branch. She was a lady probably in her, I'm guessing she might be in her 70s now, all the way down to a girl who was 25. Okay.
Wow.
It was all women. I was the only dude in there. It was like, yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
Right.
But again, and there are a lot of, and you're talking about these gender wars. Maybe that's good. Maybe that works well on social media, on YouTube, but in the real world, if you're really serious about getting that employment or getting that money or saving it so that you can start your own thing down the line 10, 15 years from now, those women you're going to have to swallow your pride and get to talking to those females who who are in the know. Okay.
Yeah, talking to them about more than what we usually.
That too. Yeah, when you want to holler, if you want to holler, okay, there are women you want to holler at, and then there are women you want to holler at.
Yeah, holler for the dollar.
Holler for the dollar, and then holler for, well, well, I'm a married dude, so I ain't even going there.
Right. Right. I guess all we're saying, just the way that it can be so venomous, the communication on YouTube. Don't take that to work.
No, don't. Do not take that to work. And don't. If anything, do like me and young brothers. Do like me and DollarWIL are doing. Talk about some stuff that's going to uplift the community. And I know the community's splintered right now, but do your part. I know we talk about the collective Black community, but the collective can't be healthy without, you need healthy individuals to create a healthy collective. And that health starts with economics. Economics, in my mind, trumps everything. Getting the dollar is important. In this capitalistic country, this is where we are. And I hear people talking about, we got to defeat capitalism and blah, blah, blah. You know what? My father was kind of funny. He said, Lee, he calls me Lee for sure. That communist stuff is a bunch of bullshit. And he said, because you talk about everybody share alike, somebody's going to be in charge. And usually it's the people who talk about we need to do socialism. They want to be in charge. And, when I came to Washington in the mid 80s, I was that put me up at a hotel temporarily. And I was in the bar. This is back when I drank. I'm going somewhere with this. Stay with me. And I saw this guy who looked like he could have been a rocker, like a white dude who played in a band. So I asked him, do you play in a band by any chance? He said, sure. And I said, what band is that? He said, Tears for Fears.
Wow.
Really? And what was their main hit back then? Everybody wants to rule the world. And it was funny. I was like, did that guy? And the funny thing was, years later, I thought, was that guy really with Tears for Fears? So I went to their website and they went through their history, and it turned out they were actually playing shows in DC. At that time, I was there, June of '85. I was like, yeah, that really was them. And I forgot the dude's name. I should have wrote it down. But he was with this man. And I said, yeah, my name is so. I said, and he's like, and of course, I would have loved to see them play, but my schedule was weird because I had to start work at 3 a.m. That was an adjustment too. I was working from 3 a.m. to noon. That was quite the adjustment. Otherwise, I'd have gone. I was this 25-year-old kid in DC for the first time. I was like, wow. I didn't know, back now they talk about how DC was ravaged by crack and this and that. I was like, back then to me, it was a whole different world from New Jersey where I grew up.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. It wasn't. Like it's like everything else. It depends on what you into. But yeah, the city did have it rough. But in that same period, that's when I was running my business.
Right.
Okay. I was running a business. It involved a lot of young people. And it was a nonprofit. And hey, you want to call me a poverty pimp? Okay. I was offering doing a business that was providing skills and employment for inner city folk principally, and in that crack ravaged environment, my company was an easy sell.
Yeah,
it was the moneyed section of Black DC. We were a sight for sore eyes. They were not going to let us fail. So we were doing the right thing at the right time, and the community stepped up and rewarded us. So, but in the midst, again, it was in the midst of all that crack, But what I found was a lot of young people, they didn't want to be involved in that. They were looking for something positive to do. So, that law of attraction kicked in, and they found us, and we made it through. We made it through just by trying to do something positive. And for some of us, it turned into careers in the industry. And the job was in media production. So it ended up being a career for me and a number of other people. So.
It's interesting about the mid 80s also. What was interesting, I had another colleague that I got, another brother who was much older, and he was a managing editor for a newspaper in New York State that won a Pulitzer. I think they won the Pulitzer under his watch. But he was at Gannett, USA Today at the time, and I asked him, I said, yo, man, what's up with this mayor you got down here? He said, oh, man, he just a jitterbug and whatnot. And, at first I didn't really think much about it. And part of me would ask, how does this guy keep getting elected? And we're talking about Marion Barry.
Right. You'd have to have been here to know.
I had to be. And then years later, I figured, he did a lot for the community. And,
yes, he did.
And no matter... I was in Colorado. I was in Colorado when he got popped on film for, you remember at the end, he kept
saying, oh yeah.
That
was some of my best work on the job. I EQ'd that tape, man, for my network at least. Made it perfect.
When you say EQ,
that beat set me up. I made sure everybody heard that beat set me up.
Yeah. Bitch set me up. And I remember and we were all watching that in Colorado, and a white woman had said, how can people keep voting for a man like that? And at the time I was a little offended, but I didn't say anything. And I couldn't answer that. I couldn't answer that question. 25 years later, I could answer that question because the man did stuff for the people of Washington, despite his personal foibles. And to be perfectly blunt, if I had been mayor of a big city, who the hell knows how I would have acted? I might have done the same.
But see, what people when they talk about Marion Barry, they don't tell the whole.
Oh, of course not.
They can't tell the whole story because they only know the big national part. When he's doing drugs or whatever. Right. But I wish they would start the story with how he was voted several times like the best mayor in America, not black mayor, best mayor in America.
Oh, yeah.
Period. DC had the the best summer job employment,
that's right.
Summer youth employment program. It was became a model for a lot of other states around the country. Yep. So we were loyal to him for one, because a lot of young people, and I was one of them, starting at age 14, he basically gave us a work ethic, because 100% of the youth got a job, even if they didn't have no real work for you. If you'd have a job, you'd have some place where you had to show up, dressed appropriately, and be there on time. Okay,
Right.
so for a lot of people, if that's the only lesson they learned every summer, you had to do that. Well, there's a connection between Marion Barry's summer job program and the transition of Prince George's County, Maryland, from white to black, and Prince George's County becoming the place with the highest concentration of black millionaires on planet Earth, not America, on Earth. Okay, you cannot tell that story about Prince George's County without talking about Marion Barry and the work ethic that was created in the black youth, black people, even especially in the poor quadrant of DC, Southeast DC, where I grew up. He did it, man. And the first significant thing that he did that really got our respect was, let's see, DC is in the 4 quadrants, and Northwest, that's where the White House is. That's where the money is. That's the rich quadrant, okay? The poorest quadrant is Southeast DC. And the mayor, you would expect the mayor to live uptown where the money is. No, he chose to live amongst the poor people. Man, that's our guy. That's our guy.
And then later on,
did it, man.
And after all that crap, all that bitch set me up crap he went through, what happened? They elected him to the city council.
That's right. Oh, and another thing he did, see, he took on the power. You got to remember, this is DC at a time when people probably saw that movie with Petey Green. It was a movie about a guy named Petey Green. I'm trying to think of what the name of the movie was. Official name, but look it up. But Petey Green was this guy who was he was a how could I describe Petey Green? He was a loud talking drug. I guess he was in prison for drugs, but he came out and he became a huge figure in media. He had a television program. He became like a star. And in this movie is about this guy's ascension. And he almost got to, he was on deck to go on Johnny Carson. And he blew it. He couldn't, I guess the thinking is the success terrified him. And his, station manager and the guy who was pulling the strings to get him to Johnny Carson was Kathy Hughes's ex-husband at the time. So of course that later became Radio 1, and so that's how you get Kathy Hughes. Now the point we're gonna bring all this up. This is all under Marion Barry's Black DC. So we have some powerful images of black manhood. We had Petey Green, who was sort of like Richard Pryor as a convict, who became a media figure. That's who Petey Green was. You had your first black news anchors pretty much happen in DC.
Right.
So you saw all kinds of degrees of black power. You saw Marion Barry would wear a suit and tie between 9 and 5, and then after 5 he put on a dashiki, and so you saw that there was I'm linking it to this Pookie and Ray Ray thing. You saw that there was a dynamic way for you to be a man. It wasn't all from criminal activity. That so you could be Petey Green and you could get your life together and you could be respected. You could wear a suit, like Marion Barry, and you could be respected. You could be the dashiki wearing brother and you could be respected. So there was just all these everybody was respected in their lane. So if you want to say the educated lames or, you know, the Pookie and Ray Ray, there was a place for everybody to be respected for their brand of manhood, black manhood. Now later with I'm jumping time here with gangster rap and the growth of the prison industrial complex, that just took over the community, and it's like everything got dumbed down where you couldn't have any credibility if you didn't have a prison resume. You know, it's just the culture changed, and I think that's, of course, after the crack ravaged the community, and so that's why a lot of times, you know, at 54, when I'm in these, you know, discussions on this topic, it's like really frustrating to see how far. Uh, uh, I'm trying not to put the blame on us. Okay, yes, how far we've fallen, but it's America, you know, has fallen too. It's not like just us. It's some external forces, you know, and but we still have to, you know, navigate it better. But I'm just making a point that we had a broad, um, dynamic definition of alpha, if you want to go there. We had a broad definition of it, and Marion Barry embodied a lot of it. Marion Barry was had a little bit of Jesse Jackson in him, you know, so he could speak on the mic. You know, he's a college educated brother, okay, but he was down. He could relate to the guy on the corner too, you know. So he made us want to be that. I know he made me want to be that. He made me want to be relatable to people of all walks of life, black people especially. And because Marion Barry put on that suit, he embodied that you have to be able to go talk to the white folks uptown too with that money. So you have to have mobility within society. And he was a walking, living example of that. And yeah, that was like one of my great role models, man, for how to be, what kind of black man I wanted to be. So that's why we voted for him over and over. That's why.
Can I ask you a question also? I remember reading where there was a siege at one of the DC offices. There was a hostage taking, and Marion Barry was shot in the chest during this incident. How much impact? I don't know what he was then. Was he? I don't know if he was on city council or
I think he was a city council member at that
okay. Time. How much of that?
How much of city council or board on the school board? One of them.
Okay, that shooting that he survived. How much of that? How in your opinion, or the opinion of Black Washington, if you will, how did that incident sort of fuel his ascension, or if you will, in politics?
Yes, but I'm going to say it put him on the map in, I would say, in power DC among the white folks.
Okay.
He became a known figure. The black folks in the community, they already knew. Okay. They already knew who he was. He was already what we call a S-talking Negro, you know, talking truth to power. He was already, I was raised by a DC public school teacher, and he was radical in his time on the school board. And there was lots of course, strikes, and he was always involved in that. And my aunt was very radical and involved in that. And, you know, our camper was like the coffee station, you know, for these. So I was like born into the fight, you know, knowing that, you know, part of being a black man in America means that you're going to fight. You're not going to have no peace. We don't have no justice. That's why you can't have no peace. So I don't understand why today people expecting stuff to be easy, because we're not free yet. We got some struggling to do. Anyway, but yeah, no, I think it fueled him in a sense that it gave him a platform for people outside of the Black community to know who that guy is, who that guy, and he milked it. Now I mean, you know, I don't want to say he milked it. He has a personality. I'm not trying to portray him as an opportunistic. Okay, opportunity found him, and he was prepared for it when it came. Now I want to say it that way. Okay. It found him, and I find that to be true in life. If you're ready, you know, I used to, when I was running my business, me and my colleague, we used to war about this concept. About, he would always talk about the right time, and I would be like, my view is, you can make the right time when you're right. The right opportunity will come. You don't have to chase opportunity, you know, because the worst thing you can do is to put yourself in a position where you're making promises to people that you can't deliver. And so, you know, be prepared. And when you're prepared, the opportunity for you to, you know, shine, it'll present itself, or you'll be able to easily create it. But so Marion Barry was the right man. He was ready, and it was the right time. And that opportunity, it's a misfortune because people died, and fortunately for him, he did not. And so yeah, that kind of opened a door. Everybody knew who he was. I mean, everybody in the Black community already knew, but I would say white power, Capitol Hill, DC, they knew who he was.
Yeah,
from that moment forward. They
must have thought, that is a bad man. He got shot in the chest, point blank in the chest, and he still survived.
Yeah, man. That's why if this movie is ever made about his life, and you know, let's talk about a movie being made, it's going to be, people are going to come away with an opinion of him. They're going to be like, this is one of the greatest American politicians ever. When this dude would show up in the winter, when, you know, snow on the ground in DC, okay, so it gets cold, it snow. He was the kind of guy that would, during campaign time, he'd come up in a van and drive you to see a bunch of you at the bus stop, drive you to work, give you some coffee. How you gonna out campaign that?
It's funny you mention that. My wife used to drive her students to school. They knock on my door when she was a high school teacher in New Jersey. When we were living there 10 years ago, they knock on. She would take her students to school, and later she ended up on the board of education of our township. But that's another story.
Yeah. See, it was just in her to do that, and she was. I mean, I'm assuming that she wasn't being political.
No, she
was doing that good community deed. It just, the good came back. It came back. You know, she was being herself.
That's
and
right.
She was building a, as I like to say, building a pyramid. That was a stone to build a pyramid. It came back later. And same thing with Marion Barry. When you have those relationships with people that we were talking about earlier, that, you know, people are going to be loyal to you. You know, especially when that person helped you when you were down. They didn't judge you or see you as worthless when you were down. They gave you a hand out and a hand up. Okay. And so when they fall, what are you going to do? Abandon him?
And, you know? And looking back, I think the media of course, the media, as you know, follows behind the authorities. And it seemed like the authorities were just like out to get him. Oh my God, they were out to get him for anything. And
another reason they were out to get him. There's two reasons, in my view, why they were out to get him. One, he had this program called following the King riots in '68. DC was devastated. We had a lot of abandoned buildings in DC that became like drug dens and stuff. Okay. And it was an eyesore. Now, a lot of the people that owned these buildings were white folks that had fled to the suburbs. And so Marion Barry had this program where he basically was saying that if you don't renovate these or fix up these properties and keep them clean, we're going to lien it. And so he started taking people's property. Now, what you think going to happen? First of all, we like, this is a bad brother. he went straight for the white man's money. He messing with their money, y'all. So we like, this is a different kind of brother right here. So of course they're not gonna like him. Now, black folks to other cities that get on that bandwagon and talking negative about Marion Barry, they don't know that. They don't know that he went after their money and he said, "This is my DC. You're not gonna trash my city and leave these abandoned eyesores.
Well,
You're
yeah,
gonna fix it, or we're gonna take it."
it's amazing how some people can do wrong, and then when you correct them, they have the nerve to say, "How dare you correct me? And how dare you mess with my money, even though you're not doing anything with the billing." It just kills me that some of these. Never mind. It just kills
I
me.
mean, but people are distant. Oh, hold on for a second.
Okay.
I gotta get. I'm sorry I didn't turn off my.
That's all right.
I gotta turn this notification off. There's something else about Barry I want to say.
Go ahead.
But I'm trying to turn this notification off because somebody called me back. The second thing that was a key that he did to irritate folk was when he hold on, I'm still distracted with that. Oh, when he started steering contracts to black folks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nepotism is the rule in America.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how things work. But usually it's a white guy steering those government resources to someone of his in his
Mm-hmm.
tribe, as I like to call it. Now here's Marion Barry. He got charged with giving government contracts to his friends. And so they asked him about that. He said, "Who am I supposed to give these jobs to? My enemies?" Man, that's classic. You can't buy that.
Yeah, that's true.
And he left it at that, man. He said, he didn't even deny it. He said, "Who am I supposed to give the jobs to? My contract to? My enemies?"
Well,
that's our guy.
Here's the thing, though. We grow up and see. Here's the thing. A lot of us grow up hearing, "You can't be doing what the white man does," but apparently Marion Barry said, "Fuck all that. I'm doing what the white man does."
Exactly. And not only that, he again, that's how a big part of how Prince George's County became the highest concentration of black wealth in America. You cannot separate that from Marion Barry.
I was going to mention Prince George's earlier in this stream. I'm glad you did.
So you won't get that perspective I just gave unless you're talking to somebody that grew up in DC and watched it.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. I watched a documentary about DC in the 70s, and I thought to myself, man, I wish I had grown up in DC in the 70s instead of that well, Jersey is a whole different animal. But DC, of course, is DC. It's a federal district. But, New Jersey, the little town I grew up in, we thought we was bad Negroes, but we really grew up in a suburban bubble. It was a lower class suburb, but suburb nonetheless. And I wished I had grown up in DC because, well, I'm sure I would have found, of course, being a young kid, being 15 and 16, I'm sure that the selection of young ladies to date would have been there would have been a much larger pool in DC than there was where I grew up. You know what I'm saying? But still, DC when I first landed in DC as a 20-something, I just thought this was the greatest place, regardless of if, Reagan was president, didn't matter. Everything about it just resonated with me.
Yeah, it was a special place, man, and I wish everybody could have had that. Every Black American needed an experience of growing up in a place like DC, where, for better and for worse, you got a Black mayor, the Black police chief, and everything is Black. Now you got good performing blacks and you got some lame blacks, okay? But because my DC experience, I don't think of black as being dysfunctional and negative. You know, it's like I think integration deprives black people of seeing, and I'm sorry, deprives black and white people of seeing black people in charge and running things well. It
Right.
wasn't until Obama came along that people got, okay, they got a frame for how that can work, you
Right.
know. Because I think we're just kind of conditioned to think, and I think white people are conditioned to think that if they're not in charge, whether that's in charge of the world, in charge of America, or in charge of that company, or in charge of that department you work in, that if it's not a white guy in charge of it, all hell is going to break loose and it's not going to work right. That's not true. That's not true. And in DC, we don't think like that. I talk to my friends. I often tell them that we are not really socialized to survive in America outside of DC because we have seen a, a black middle and upper middle class. We've seen black professionals. We're not prepared to go. That's not what America looks like. You know, we're not prepared to deal with this real racism that a lot of blacks experience in more integrated areas. And I know I'm not socialized to deal with it because I have family that I was born on Long Island, New York, and I would spend summers in Long Island with my father, and I have my grandfather in North Carolina. So I saw the Long Island kind of friction there between, say, the blacks and the Italians, you know, and what we would call in the South, of course, what we call the crackers and the blacks. Okay, I've seen that friction. You know, I've seen, you know, I remember as a kid going to the store with my grandfather, and my grandfather calling the white man Mr. So and so, but the white man referring to my grandfather, calling him by his first name. And I was a kid, man, you know, 6, 7, 8 years old, and I picked up on that immediately. I didn't like that. So, you know, so those kinds of little microaggressions and micro insults, you know, somebody in DC, man, we'll go somewhere else in America, man. We can get ourselves in trouble because you know we don't know when to shut up, and so that's not good for us. We're not safe. So no, I've never lived in every place I've lived has had a black majority. Let me put it that way. And I'm socialized to live that way. And I'm too old to learn how to survive any other way. So I think that the downside, if you want to call it that, is that we're not really socialized to be able to live other places, because I don't have in DC. It's back in the time when it earned its name Chocolate City, and it got that name because DC didn't really go disco like the rest of the country did, and all the black groups, Parliament, Cameo, Barcades, all those groups, you know, they made money. They was at the old Capitol Center over and over, and we fed them because we didn't really go disco as hard as a lot of other places did.
Yeah.
And so that's how we earned the title Chocolate City.
I remember Chocolate City. I was this kid and see, again, I didn't know anything because I'm growing up in southern New Jersey in a segregated suburb next to Camden, which was economically depressed and still had whites running it. And I heard Chocolate City on the radio, and it sounded good, but it really didn't resonate until, and then, you know, again, it takes years of now looking back, you know, retrospectively, if you will, and it makes a lot of sense. But in that moment, well, what the hell? I was 14 years old. I didn't know shit, you know? And again, when I look at those documentaries about DC, I think, man, I wish I had grown, man. But even for the reasons you say, you know, being around black people who are running shit and not even thinking anything of it.
Right.
And coming and then going outside. And one of the things, going outside of the district into Maryland or Virginia or anywhere else and seeing what the real world is like must be a shock. And you know what really pisses me off, though? Every time there's a story about Marion Barry, you get these assholes who comment in the Washington Post about him and whatnot and his book. And it's like, did you all ever live in the district? If not, shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
I mean, you're sitting in, Fairfax or Alexander or Loudoun County, Virginia, talking smack about DC. Fuck you.
Right. I mean, it's a deep.
Do it today. They still do it.
I mean, it's a deep, deep documentary, man. That needs several. Probably have to take several. Okay, you had. Under black mayor, Mayor Washington, he was appointed mayor. He wasn't elected.
Right.
Marion Barry was elected.
Correct.
Mayor. Okay. So under whether people know it or not, there's a subcommittee in Congress that runs. That has a lot of power. Essentially, runs DC. Okay.
Right.
And so under that power structure, I'm talking before Marion Barry and what we got quote unquote home rule, which is our right to elect the mayor and school board. Prior to that, if you want to say cooning was how you made it, okay? Because the money and everything was still concentrated among white folks, okay? So if you had good cooning skills, you could make it. Now imagine what happens when you get a black elected mayor. Let's slow down. The black people put him in power. Now your cooning skills don't have much value. So we have some black folks that were on the wrong side of the coon divide, okay? So they had the social skills that would allow them to ingratiate themselves to the white power structure, which is valuable. I'm not putting it down. I mean, there's a way, you've seen the movie The Spook Who Sat by the Door. There's a value for people like that if they get on code. But when Marion Barry came in, that changed the landscape among black folks. So now all of a sudden, the black folks who were connected to black people were powerful. And the black, when I say black folks, I mean not just black politicians. If you were just a local black person, you had connections with lots of people, you could work the web, and get stuff done because you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. But if you are a black person, you were pretty much connected through the white power structure and you didn't really have many strong ties to the black community. Well, you hated the fact that Marion Barry was in charge because you don't have any power, you don't have any mobility. So there's some of that going on too. So a documentary that's really going to tell the get down, they're going to have to get into what happens when black people that are working in a white power structure, what happens when that structure becomes a black power structure. Now, I want to see if we ever going to get a documentary that dive into the psychology and sociology of that. Because now we're talking about why people, that will explain why you had this division about Marion Barry and some people like them and some people don't. Depends on mostly whether you live uptown in the rich section or across down, in the crosstown in the southeast in the poor section. Because if you were trying to move on up, then Marion Barry was trying to find solutions for you to move on up. But if you were uptown and you had worked your way into getting into some connections with some white folks, and then this revolution happened, you're not going to be too happy about that.
Or you could just say, well, I guess I better join back with my own people. I can't see why that would be so hard.
It's easier said than done.
Why so?
Because you're talking about people. If you built your life on the idea that in order to survive in America, that I have to go away to a white college. Let's start there. No. Let's go before that.
Mm-hmm.
If you drink in the integration juice or the assimilation juice, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this and you have the mindset that the best thing is for me to go live in a white neighborhood, send my kid to a white school, including college, so that they can make connections. So you built your whole life around this idea that this is the plan to how to make it, and then the revolution comes. It's not that easy to switch over and 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 have the same effectiveness building those bonds in the black community, because it's still competitive. Okay, you're still competing against other black people who have stronger connections to the guy who's now the mayor, or he's on the city council, or this ANC person, or this guy who just got this big government contract. All these people grew up with you in the neighborhood. And so if you spent your life living, trying to figure out how to penetrate the white power structure, it's going to be hard for that person to come back and compete equally with black folks who have those deep ties, or including going to a black church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got to throw that in there. So it's a power. When Marion Barry became mayor, it was a huge power divide between, I would say, what we would call the uptown Negroes with the more connected. I mean, it's strategically in America. The oddity is, in America, it does help to have those connections
Yes.
outside the black community. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, especially, we're only 13% of the population. Now, here's the dichotomy. When you're in a city that's like 75% black, you better have some black connections now, because that's what I'm saying. People in DC, we don't, our mind was not socialized to be a minority.
And
I don't have a 13% black mind. I didn't grow up with the reminder every day that I have to be concerned what white people think based on what I say or how I dress and what I do.
Yep.
I'm not, but if you grow up in an area where you're 13% of the population, that's your reality, and you better learn to survive that. So I'm not cracking on people who lived in integrated environments. I'm just saying there's a different skill set that you need when you live in that environment. But if you live in an area that's 70% black, that's a different skill set you need to survive there too. And when the wind blows or changes direction, you could be on the wrong side of the divide. And that's what happened with when Marion Barry came in. Oh, and I got to also mention that everybody should know this, that Gil Scott-Heron is a DC guy. He spent at least his adult life was in DC. So I'm claiming him too, because if you lived in DC, you saw him all the time. You saw him at his good points, and you saw him when he was battling drugs. You saw him on the corners. Okay. So you know him. Everybody's got stories. You've seen this guy on high, and you've seen him low. And he was in the battle, dealing with his personal demons, but he also, of course, inspired us with his music too, And so you had all these positive images of success and failure, and the success and failure, you saw from every socioeconomic, direction.
You mentioned Gil Scott-Heron. Look at that black man over there.
That's right.
His
man got a
problem, and it's a bad one.
Yeah.
I remember the bottle. And then, of course, I remember the revolution won't be televised.
Exactly.
Gil Scott-Heron he got a lot of airplay in Philadelphia, bro. Don't get it twisted. He got a lot of airplay in the Philly area too.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I just brought up just to show that those were all of the images. When you have a PD, like I said, a PD Green, you got you got John Thompson from Georgetown. Okay, you got Marion Barry. We got Chuck Brown. We got all of these images of black male excellence, man. And it was a powerful environment, and great
William
inspiration.
Raspberry. Washington
Absolutely.
Post.
Read them every day.
William Raspberry, and now, of course, is there. Of course, taking the mantle would be Eugene Robinson.
Right.
But we had some, and I tell people this too. We had some strong black men running. Yeah, we didn't own them, but we ran them, running newsrooms all over the country.
Right.
We had some men running things. If they weren't running things, we were reporting them. I'm one. Yeah, look, I was dropped into the integration juice. It wasn't my choice. Okay.
I mean, but that was the dominant message in the community coming out of the whole civil rights era. That wasn't the only message, but that was the predominant message, because that message was the most appealing to white folks. It was the safest way. It was the best way for you to be a safe Negro and not have, and not invite trouble into your life. Okay. So, most folks just trying to put a roof over their head, put some food on the table, and have a nice life. They don't want no trouble, And so the integration, assimilation, and that still is probably the safest path in a physical sense. But if you want psychological peace, spiritual peace, psychological peace, that's not going to be enough. But that's for every individual. So, I'm not trying to push, DollarWILism on anybody, but that's my personal struggle. That's why I had to walk away from the money, because at some point, like the saying goes, they say everybody's got a price, and at some point, the scary thing is when you realize what your price is. And when I was taking the crap on that job, I looked at my salary and my big nice house near the water and all this stuff, and I said, "You sold out for this." And once I got that, the money was not enjoyable. I did not save it. I was blowing the money in ways to try to it was like an addiction almost, like, I know I'm not saying this right, but reaching these artificial levels of success and you're still not happy. I said, I'd rather be happier. Even if it means I'll be poorer. That's the fork in the road. And I walked away. I don't know how I got to that point from where we were, but I'm just saying, being in DC and talking to other black folks who've been in that same fork in the road, and having my people there, my tribe, it kind of, some pretty awesome people who've been to some great heights, who either kept going or opened their own business, or just turned back and said, hey, it's not worth it, because there's a limit. There's a glass ceiling when you start talking about assimilation and integration. There's a glass ceiling. You get to the job and you look around and you go, I'm one of the baddest people here. I'm definitely in the top 10% of the people here. Why am I not valued that way? And you realize that in this system, as a minority, you will never be valued that way. And what you gain in that office job, working for someone else in their company, you don't gain anything that's yours that you can pass down to your family or anything. So
that's the truth.
So so that was so all I'm saying is, a lot of the decisions that I made in my life and the views I have, it comes straight from DC, seeing all those diverse alpha images of black strength, whether we talk alpha male, alpha female, gotta throw the sisters in there too. Okay. I saw so many positive images that and I received so much support when I was running my business, that it defined me, and made me who, the person that I am today. So I wouldn't trade living in Black DC for anything. I wish every Black person in America could have had that experience. So when we start talking about things like what's possible in Africa, well, because I grew up in Black DC, I have a completely different optimism than say someone who grew up in cities where they were only 13% and people couldn't really be themselves or self-actualize. Let me put it that way. Get to make a plan and develop it, and see the fruit of your labor, and put your imprint, put your stink on something. Build a company and make it run the way you want it to run. You have your own values and mission statement that's reflected in the company. It's your thing. And that's Black DC, man.
It's your thing. Do what you want to do. I can't tell you. I can't remember the rest, but that was the Isleys.
Yeah, but we rambled, man, far and far, but
here's the thing I wanted to say about that. I get where you're coming from, because I spent outside of newspapers, when I transitioned, I spent most of my years running scared. And the funny thing about that is, I never had I had one 6-figure job that I lost ignominiously. I won't go into it here, but I'm to the point now where at first I was scared because you still have the family to support, and and you're trying to toe the line, and you're trying to be a good, smiling, trying to. But maybe I was shown as I've gotten, and see, some people mellow out as they get older. I've gotten angrier as I've gotten older, and
yeah, you're bamboozled.
And yeah, that's why I call myself bamboozled. People might wonder, why do you call yourself bamboozled Black baby boomer? And there's a good reason for it, because I was bamboozled.
Right.
And it was nobody's fault. It was life. It was circumstance that bamboozled a brother. And now I'm like, here I am thinking I got to toe the line and this and that. And I'm in a situation, I'm living in a country where my ability to provide for mine can be taken away capriciously at a moment. And so why in the world am I scared? Why am I scared to speak out? I mean, frankly, I think I'd rather be respected than liked.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's why the dominant society hates us so badly, because we're trying to be liked instead of respected. Maybe we need to be more. I'm going to say that I told my wife one day, I was in a meeting. I sat in a meeting, and this was 10 years ago at a company. I was at their home office in Baton Rouge. They were doing work on recovery work after Katrina, which was, as you know, was it was heartbreaking to see what New Orleans looked like. But we were in Baton Rouge. And I saw the CEO of this company. He was on speaker, berating another Caucasian dude over some information that he didn't have at that moment. And you could see the guy's face getting red. You could hear the guy on the CEO, whining like a little bitch. Right. And then I thought to myself, and looking back now, I probably would have been all nervous, and of course, I would have walked out angry as all hell and this and that. But, here's the thing. Yeah, I did some things on the job I could have done better. And I've gotten chewed out on things, and I leave angry as hell and all that. But, now today, you do that to me, we're going to have either in front of everybody or later. I'll be like, look, we're going to have a talk, because my father doesn't talk to me like I'm 15, and you damn sure ain't. Right. And if you don't like that, well, maybe you and I might have to go to the parking garage and settle this as men.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't care if of course, my wife would be like, you don't want to do that.
Right.
It's a paycheck worth your dignity, I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah, seeing all those images, man, from, like I said, like from Marion Barry and all of them, when I went to the job, I was already on that frequency, man. I went to my supervisor one time because this guy, I got into a dispute with a guy on another department. I guess he didn't like my performance on something, so he decided the guy wasn't my supervisor or anything. So he decided he gonna berate me and all this. And so I got back in his face and started berating him. And I said, I told him. And then later I told my supervisor. I said, because I'm gonna beat him to the supervisor. Okay, I'm not gonna wait for him to file the complaint and then I go in there defending myself. No, I went ahead of it and I went and told, okay. And I told my supervisor, I said, I'm telling you what I told him. I came in here, man, I believe one. You ain't gonna talk to me that way. I don't care what I do. Okay, you write it down and you write me up and we'll go through the disciplinary procedure that's in the company manual. But there's no part of this game that you're going to be berating me. Okay, because we could, like you just said, I told him, I said, because we can go out on the street and do this, like the Wild Wild West. Because I was like 23, 24, so I was ready, primed for the fight.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, because I watched, your status as a CEO of a big company is not going to shield you from getting the ass whooping of your life.
Exactly.
And I'll tell anybody, you come at me, I'm an old dude. You might get the best of me, but just know that I will try my level best to inflict my share of damage on you. So if it comes to that, I'm not a violent guy. I shied away from fights as a kid. I probably should have whooped some more ass as a kid, but I didn't because I was too scared to take a punch. Now, how I did get back at people, I like to tell this story. Well, we played football on the sand lot with no pads and we played tackle. If you were somebody in the neighborhood I didn't like, that's why I enjoyed playing defense, because I knew you could hit somebody. And if they had that ball, I was coming for you hard, full speed, boom. Yeah. Oh, you all right?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah, but that's you brought back memories of DC, man. But I learned all of that from watching all of my DC idols. That your value is not determined by your income. And I've had a lot in my life and I've had a little, and I can say, I wasn't necessarily happier when I had more money, and so you just back to the thing I said about when everybody's got a price, and your moment of clarity is gonna come when you find out what your price is. And you may not like it. Because if your job is not giving you satisfaction, or you don't feel fulfilled in this thing, you're spending a third of your day there, probably 25 or more years. That's like a big part of your life. No amount of money to me is worth that, but everybody has to solve that on their own. That's the individual thing. And if you got kids and family, then you have to make different types of decisions, because it's not just all about you. So I'm not, projecting what anybody else should do. I'm just saying that growing up in DC and we're seeing all of these diverse examples of Black male strength. It gave me a certain kind of freedom,
right?
That even if I have a little bit, I can be all right. I'll be all right. I'll have my dignity. Okay, I'll have my dignity.
Here's the thing I'm doing. After the next month, it's looking like I may have to head back to New Jersey, move back in with the folks at age 59, 58, 59. And of course, the first person that says to me, "Oh, you had to move back home," we're going to have a conversation. And if you can ask me why, and I'll tell you. But if you want to try to shame me, we're going to have to go back somewhere and have a conversation and say, you do well not to. I'm already a little pissed off. I don't want to have to go Hulk on you. But at the same time, I'll feel much better that I don't have that pressure of trying to make a certain income like here in the DC area.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah, I want
and
to thank you,
yeah,
man. I
but
want to thank
here's
you for your
well, here,
honesty on that, and you are talking about the other the health issue with what was it? Was it colon?
oh I did a live stream on my I had prostate cancer, and
Prostate cancer. Yeah, I'm sorry. I get them confused. Colon versus prostate cancer. Two
I
different
did a
things.
live stream where I
I
said
know.
it was titled "Incontinence is a Fact of My Life," and I'm
Right.
sure there are probably some folks who snicker at why is he talking about that? Why? Because again, you take a few trips or more, you take a few trips more, or a few more trips around the planet. It's going to catch you.
Right.
Something will catch you. You know what? When the doctor told me after doing the biopsy, and the biopsy was fun. Let me tell you. Oh God, it was fun. Sarcasm. When the doc told me I had an aggressive form of prostate cancer, I said, well, I guess it was my turn. Because before I go, can I do something? Can I
Sure.
run off? I need to go off screen real quick. Hold
Sure.
on.
Okay. Let's see. We don't have no clowns, no midgets. We need a. Is that politically correct to say midgets? Are they called midgets? You
Oh,
know.
extended clip.
Um,
Extended clips. Hi, and hey, Gigi, how you doing? I'm back. I'm going to show you guys something. This right here, I just found this. This is a photograph of what's known as my brachytherapy procedure. All those little dots, those are 87 radioactive pellets designed to kill the cancer. They all release little bits of radiation. I did that.
is that big white spot the cancer?
No, I think that's I'm not sure what the big white spot is. Um, I'm not quite sure what that big white spot is, but you can sort of see
I see the
I
pellet. I
guess
see the
that's
dot.
the urethra or something like that. But the reason I'm showing it to you is that again, it was my turn. And I know people don't like to discuss. I know back in the day, people didn't discuss cancer, and health issues are something. And sometimes it could be environmental, it could be genetic, it could be anything. But when you're human, certain cells die. They're born and they die. And then certain cells, want to overstay their welcome and multiply. That's
Right.
cancer. And fortunately for me, it was prostate, which is slow growing. Now, there are other forms that are just deadly. Pancreatic is the worst.
Yeah, nah, man. My best friend just went through that.
Yeah.
Had that surgery, man. He's like 52, man. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's like stuff happens. And
Stuff
this I'm gonna
happens.
bring it back around to the age discrimination. So if you are approaching age 40, the stuff ahead of you in your 40s, it's a completely different chapter in life.
Mm-hmm.
Your body starts going through different kinds of changes, and on the job, you go into a higher category for discrimination. So so it's all kind of connects, and I just want to thank you for your bravery, man, your
That's okay.
courage to share this personal
That's
information.
okay. If people want to think I'm crazy, that's on them. But they'll just know this is life and it's going to happen. If you don't get any cancer, God bless you. If you go through life with no issues, God bless you. Okay. But I showed you that picture because I just found it. We're trying to clean up and get up out of here. And I found this thing and I had been looking for it forever. And I had that surgery done in 2012. And the funny thing was, I said, before I did the consultation with the doc, it was funny. The first thing he says is, after you have such a procedure, again, these are radioactive pellets. He says, don't hug a child too long. Okay, fine. I got you, doc. And don't let a pregnant woman sit on your lap. Okay, doc, check. And then he says, if you die within 6 months of the procedure, you cannot be cremated. Okay, wow. Doc, check. And so he says to me, and so I say, oh yeah, I can imagine it now. I'm dead, and and my ashes are glowing. But I also had to undergo what was it? Androgen blocker therapy too. And that was hormones. And the guy said, and the doctor said, you will feel like a woman on menopause. And he was right. Wow. One night I went through on any given night, I would go through hot flashes, then cold flashes, then I'd be hot again and cold again. And of course, Mrs. Bamboozle thought it was kind of hilarious. Right. Now you know what we go through. I'm like, yeah. I guess so.
And see, and when you're younger, you don't, and you're dating, you're trying to pick a partner. You really got to ask, is this woman gonna be with me for this kind of stuff? Is she and as the young folks say, ride or die? Is she gonna be down? For the rough ride?
Right, there you go.
And so, you might want to give up a couple of them daggone points on the beauty scale. If you can go down on the beauty scale and pick a woman that's a better human being,
You go. And let me tell you something else too. The studies have shown. My wife, she has MS. She was diagnosed in 2003, and yes, it screws with our quality of life because we used to go out. We used to go to, we were dating. We would go to, baseball games at the old Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. We go out. And even in Colorado, when the kids were young, we go out on dates and stuff like that. And now, basically, her MS kind of tires her out. And a lot of men do not. Studies have shown that women will stick around when a man has a problem, a chronic illness, but men in general will bail on a woman. Right. And I was raised in a certain way. My parents are going on 60 years of marriage, and yeah, they've had their issues too. Right. And I cannot see myself. I couldn't live with myself if I left my wife. Now, granted, we were on a live stream together and we talked about how we loved each other. We love each other, but there were plenty of days we didn't like each other. Okay. Right. After 30 years, 3 kids, several moves, bunches of layoffs, all kinds of financial issues, other stuff that I won't get into here. Okay. Right. But we're still together.
Right. Right.
I mean,
if you ever love somebody, that's what that is. I mean, it's like you said for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess, but we live in a time where people. I've never been married at all, but I see the people who've been married 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 times. So maybe people take it lightly. But I think if you marry someone, especially if you reproduce with them, had kids with them, that bond should last. That you should, I don't know. Maybe that's when we get into the conversation about maybe open marriage, polygamy kind of thing. Because I think a lot of times the men leaving because I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing that
I hear you.
Their capacity to be monogamous.
That's
Is a
that's a
fuck
question.
is a wedge I think driving them away. If it was possible for them to not be monogamous, they would probably stay. I think more would stay because I can't imagine somebody that you profess to have loved all of a sudden you don't love her no more because she's sick. I mean, it seems to me that's when you would love her even more. You know,
Well,
she needs you.
it's like this, okay? It's like this. If I were a marriage counselor, I'd throw I would if I were a counselor, and I'm not a pastor, I am not a licensed therapist. However, if I were to sit down with a couple who was getting ready to get married, I would throw every possible horrible scenario at them, everything. I'd throw it all at them. And I'd ask the man, okay, so what are you going to do if your wife can no longer have sex with you? What are you going to do? Are you going to cheat? You're going to run? What are you going to do?
Right.
And I'm not asking you to answer that question, but think about it.
Right.
And see, a lot of us don't think about these things until they happen. It's like you're blindsided. I am trying to prepare you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you for every possible scenario so you'll be ready. And you'll be like, well, damn, 20 years ago, that guy Quad B, he did tell me about this stuff.
Right.
He did tell us about, and same with the woman, the woman, I'm like, yeah, if your husband is a high flying hedge fund manager and he's bringing home 300,000-400,000 a year, and then he gets hit by a truck, and instead of the merciful thing happening, he dies on impact. He's now maimed for life, and you got to take care of him. He can't work anymore. Whatever you've saved have now gone to medical bills. Then what? What are you going to do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well,
all that money you've got is gone.
But listen, Quad, I enjoyed this, but I'm 30 minutes late, man. I am 30 minutes. Hold on now. I was enjoying this. I saw the time, but
okay.
I was, I'm over on the Black Brain Trust, and they started the show at 8 o'clock. 30 minutes late, but I'm gonna roll. Let me roll. Let me sneak in like we do in class when we sneak in late. We try to sneak in the back way.
Well, I'm gonna say this. You go ahead and jump off. I'm gonna continue to talk, but nice having you, DollarWIL, and thank you for the perspective on DC and Marion Barry, and maybe you and I, if I ever get a chance, maybe we can collab on that documentary.
That's right. You already know how to write the grant, so.
Well, how about this? We could do a made-for-TV movie. Who would we get to play Marion Barry?
Oh man, that's okay. It would have to be somebody Southern, because that was another part of the component. You had the uptown Negroes didn't like the fact that this man was from Mississippi, so we got a thing in DC that we don't know that we in the South, but we think we're in the North, and so we got issues with people having too much Southern, overtones. So we got issues, man. We think we uppity Northerners, all right. So it would have to be somebody that's Southern with a worldly perspective, because he was Southern but educated. So that would be a challenge. I got to kick that around. Who could play that?
It would probably have to be someone unknown. So give someone unknown a chance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, someone outside that Hollywood orbit. You know what I mean?
Definitely a real person.
Yeah. But anyway.
But all right, bro.
All right, bro. You take care and holla, and I'll stay on here for a few more words, and then I'm gonna get off of here too.
Okay, peace.
Say hello to some of the folks in the chat. But DollarWIL, take care. God bless you, and thank you for joining me.
All right, I'm out.
All right. That was DollarWIL, y'all. And if you've been listening for any length of time, he just gave you the real deal on, DC and being Black. And again, I wish there are parts of me that wished I had grown up here in the 70s, So let me look in the chat. We got a couple of people, extended clips. How you doing? And Gigi goes by Women of the Past. How you doing? 20. And she said, oh, 20 years of marriage. I just got divorced 2 years from now. That's all right. You'll find somebody. You'll find somebody else. Don't worry about that. I'm sure you will. Unless, of course, you don't. That's up to you. But for those of you who, I hope I didn't offend anybody by showing the picture of my seed surgery, but I felt like I needed to do it. I've been wanting, I have been looking for it for a long time. And again, this is real life, y'all. This is what I talk about. This is what my channel's about, dropping that game, dropping that game for my millennials and my Gen Xers and my Gen Zers, if there are any out there. And I don't feel like I'm that old either. I still feel young at heart. I do, but we've been through some, like I said, me and Mrs. Bamboozle done a couple of live streams. They're on my channel. Check them out. And also, please check out, first of all, me and Mrs. Bamboozle, we talk about a lot of stuff that we've gone through as a married couple. And hey, it is what it was. It is what it is. Also, I have the Planet GovCon series where I talk about government contracting, public sector procurement. You heard DollarWIL talk about Marion Barry steering contracts to brothers and Black-owned firms and whatnot. And a whole lot of that stuff also happened in Atlanta as well, especially under Maynard Jackson when Hartsfield Airport was expanding, So a lot of Black folk got contracts at that local level. So I'm not just going to talk about the federal level. There's a lot of opportunity at the state and local level. But again, you've got to have a tight network. And the title of this stream was Age Discrimination in Employment. And again, I'm telling you guys, especially when you're 35, you're approaching 40, 45, 50, you got to have your game, your network game, your skill game tight, because whatever it is you're doing, if you have business cards, there's some apps you can put on your phone that you can take pictures of those business cards. Now, granted, some of them are old, some of them are outdated because the people left those companies. People change gigs all the time. But if they have their cell number on them, that's the most valuable thing, because most people don't change cell numbers. Heck, I've had my cell number since 2001. So you can always, holler and say, hey, how you doing? Or what? Or if they're working in a place, and if you catch up to them, and LinkedIn as well. Get on LinkedIn. I know y'all love YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, but get on LinkedIn. There's, they have the premium for $29.99, but you don't have to pay for that just yet. Get on LinkedIn. Put your profile on there, your work profile. Get on there. And you'll see a lot of people on there, and get connected. Join their groups of LinkedIn. There are groups that are specialized based on your interests or whatever your occupation is. Get on LinkedIn. And if you see a gig you like, and you see somebody who might work at a company or know somebody, then hey, that's how you do it. That's what I mean. Keep your network game tight, because that's how most of the jobs I have gotten were not because I was the best or at what I did, although I was pretty good at what I've done over the last 30-something years. But a lot of it is who you know. It's true. It ain't what you know, it's who you know a lot of times, because human beings are still social animals, and they at least want to, regardless of color or ethnicity, they still want to work with people they can at least get along with, if not totally like. You know what I'm saying? So get on LinkedIn, get your network game tight, get your skills game tight. If you can, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars like I did to go to grad school. You've got Udemy, you've got Coursera, you've got Lydia, especially Lydia. Lydia's affiliated now with LinkedIn. All those online learning platforms. And so that's pretty much about all I can tell you. I know I've been on here for a while now, and I'll be back with another podcast, the Planet GovCon podcast, where I'm going to talk about, just not blindly bidding on things just because it's in your wheelhouse. You have to still know people. You still have to talk to people. You have to build relationships with people. And sometimes it means building relationships with people who don't necessarily look like you, but you still have something in common. I think all of us could find some common ground. And I think that's the problem with America right now. We're so polarized. We don't want to look at what we have in common. We want to look at our differences. Nothing wrong with differences, but there's some common ground we can find if we worked at it. But that means voting in people who will do the right thing. And I don't think that's going to happen until the Gen Z's getting, like Mr. Jack Charles asked in the chat, what do you think is going to happen in the future in terms of fixing the country? I said it's going to be the Gen Z's. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but I'm sure it will be the Gen Z's. Don't know, but I don't know for sure. I should say I don't know for sure, but I'm confident it'll be the Gen Z's. So anyway, that's about it. Again, if you like this stream, you can share it. You can like this stream. You can like the stream. You can share the stream. Please subscribe to the Quad B channel. I'm at 255 subscribers right now, and I got folks passing me by like crazy. I would like to get 1,000 at some point, and 1,000 subs, because I think I have some valuable information to give up. I really do. And that's just me. And also, subscribe to the Quad B channel. And until next time, please, and like this, because I know a lot of you might see bits and pieces of it on replay, because there are other folks who are going live right now on a Friday night. It is September 21st, 2018, it's 8:41 p.m. as I speak right now on the East Coast, just outside of Washington, D.C. Had a great conversation with DollarWIL about the history of Washington and the dynamics of being Black in Washington, and Marion Barry, the late Marion Barry, who was the mayor and city council person. Learned a lot about him. And but again, to bring it all full circle, as far as age discrimination, it is what it is. Just try to figure out ways to get around it, because people are going to make decisions. And if you get lopped off like I have, just figure out a way to move, and I've given you some of them tips. So anyway, that's about it. And as I always say, peace, deuces, and may God bless you. And we will talk to you on the next one. Take care, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.